Chapter 20. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. The old lady was lying on her side on the ground. Her disheveled hair covered her face, and her clothes were dirty. Gu Jiao's first thought was that she was a villager from this village. She might have just returned from the fields and fainted in front of her house for some unknown reason. The loud sound just now was caused by her head smashing against the door. Her forehead was bruised and bleeding a little. Gu Jiao had encountered scammers in her previous life, but none of them had risked their lives. The old lady had really fainted. Gu Jiao squatted down and wanted to see which family she was from so that she could send her back. However, as soon as she turned the old lady's body over, Gu Jiao realized that something was wrong. There were symmetrical light-colored skin lesions and light red spots on her face. The borders between the spots were blurry, and there were also spots on the back of her hands. Gu Jiao frowned slightly. This was clearly, "Sister, we're back." At that moment, Gu Xiaoshan was carrying an old book bag. He ran towards Gu Jiao like he was flying. Gu Jiao turned to look at him. Her eyes were sharp. "Don't come over." Gu Jiao had never spoken to Gu Xiaoshan in such a stern tone. Gu Xiaoshan was stunned. "Sister." He took 2 more steps forward. "I said don't come over." Gu Jiao's tone was even colder. This time, Gu Xiaoshan didn't dare to move at all. He stood about 10 steps away from Gu Jiao in a daze. He saw Gu Jiao and naturally saw the old lady lying in front of Gu Jiao's house. His intuition told him that this old lady had something to do with this. He asked, "Sister, who is she?" "I don't know. You should go back to the Gu clan first." Originally, she had planned to ask Gu Xiaoshan to come over for dinner, but now that something like this had happened, the safety of the family could not be completely guaranteed. She could not harm Gu Xiaoshan. Gu Xiaoshan was unhappy, but since his sister said so, he would go back first. "Well, brother-in-law, I'll leave first." He turned around and said to Xiao Lulang behind him. Gu Jiao was slightly stunned. Xiao Lulang was back too? Not only Xiao Lulang, Feng Lin also came along. Feng Lin helped his deskmate with his homework, and his deskmate gave him a basket of pomelos as a token of gratitude. He gave half of it to Xiao Lulang. He was worried that Xiao Lulang could not carry it, so he sent it back to the village. As for Gu Xiaoshan, he always bullied Xiao Lulang. Feng Lin was also a little worried that Xiao Lulang would go home with him, so he wanted to keep an eye on them. Xiao Lulang and Feng Lin both noticed the old lady lying on the ground at this time. "You'd better not come over," Gu Jiao said to the 2 of them. Feng Lin frowned strangely. "She's dead? You didn't kill her, did you?" "Hey, what are you talking about?" Gu Xiaoshan could not stand this pretty boy who always slandered his sister. Feng Lin snorted. "Did I say anything wrong? Something must have happened to that old lady. Otherwise, why wouldn't she let us go?" Xiao Lulang walked over with a cold expression. "You don't come over," Gu Jiao said. Xiao Lulang still walked over. He actually saw that something was wrong from afar. When he walked closer to take a closer look, he was finally certain of his guess. When Feng Lin saw him walk over, he quickly followed. "Hey, why are you all going over?" "Sister, I. Gu Xiaoshan anxiously scratched his head. Feng Lin came to Xiao Liulang's side and looked at the old lady with red spots all over her face. He had a bad feeling. "Brother Xiao, this is leprosy." Xiao Lulang frowned. Feng Lin's body swayed and he almost fell. This old lady is a leper." Feng Lin was so shocked that he stuttered. Leprosy was one of the most terrifying infectious diseases. It was said that as long as one person in a village was infected, the whole village would be infected. Moreover, there was no cure for this disease. Those who got it could only wait for death. In the previous dynasty, there was a tragedy where tens of thousands of people died because they did not pay enough attention to leprosy. When the current dynasty's first emperor ascended to the throne, the first thing he did was to build Leprosy Mountain. All the lepers were sent to the mountain for centralized management. "You touched her." Xiao Lulang calmly looked at Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao nodded her head. However, she had only touched her once. Her skin was not damaged, so the chances of her being infected were not high. However, other people might not think so. If other people knew that Gu Jiao had been in contact with a leper, they would definitely send her and the patient to Leprosy Mountain. Leprosy Mountain was a place where once someone went up, they would never be able to come back down. Feng Lin pulled Xiao Lulang a dozen steps away and said in a frightened voice, "You heard what she said. She touched that leper. You must immediately send her away. Otherwise, your entire village will be infected." Xiao Lulang frowned. Feng Lin stomped his feet and said, Brother Xiao, what are you hesitating for? Haven't you always wanted to get rid of that evil woman? She was the one who touched the leper. There is an 80% to 90% chance that she was infected. According to the imperial court's laws, she should be sent to Leprosy Mountain. This is a legitimate opportunity to get rid of her. Feng Lin had thought about it. Xiao Lulang was a scholar. If he really did something like abandoning his wife and children, it would ruin his reputation. The current situation was simply a timely reign. He could not only preserve his reputation, but also get rid of that evil woman. No one will be sent to Leprosy Mountain, Xiao Lulang said calmly. Feng Lin was stunned. Xiao Lulang walked towards Gu Jiao with his walking stick. "Bring me a dry cloth." Gu Jiao did not ask any questions. She went into the room and brought out a clean cloth. Xiao Lulang took the cloth from her hand and squatted down in front of the old lady. Realizing what he wanted to do, Gu Jiao said, "I'll do it." "No need." Xiao Lulang wrapped the cloth around the old lady's face, blocking her mouth and nose. "Carry her inside." "Okay." Gu Jiao nodded. "Hey, Brother Xiao." Feng Lin stopped him. Gu Xiaoshan had heard most of the story. It turned out that the old lady was a leper from who knows where. His sister was afraid that he would be infected, so she did not let him go. But was he, Gu Xiaoshan, such a disloyal person? Gu Xiaoshan ran over to help his sister and brother-in-law carry the old lady into the backyard. Feng Lin anxiously stomped his feet. "Crazy. You're all crazy." Then, he also gritted his teeth and entered the room, taking the risk of being infected. Chapter 21. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. They placed the old lady on a straw mat in the backyard. It was a good thing that their backyard was big enough. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to fit a leper, who had to keep a distance from them. "What do we do now?" Gu Xiaoshan looked at the old lady on the ground and asked. "Let's go wash our hands first," Gu Jiao said. The three of them washed their hands with clear water and soap. After that, Xiao Lulang went into his room and wrote down a prescription. Gu Jiao stood behind him and softly asked, "What is this?" When Gu Jiao came here, although she inherited the memories of the previous host couldn't read, so she didn't recognize the words of this dynasty. "Prescription," Xiao Lulang said. "What word is this?" Gu Jiao pointed at the first word on the prescription and asked. "Earth." Xiao Lulang read, "Earth bone skin." "What about this?" Gu Jiao continued to point. "Sephoraflavescens, bramble mustard, xanthoxylum." Xiao Lulang read the prescription as Gu Jiao pointed at it. Gu Jiao's expression was very serious, as if she was really learning how to read. Although it was a bit inappropriate, Xiao Lulang didn't think too much of it. "How do you have a prescription for leprosy?" Gu Jiao asked in a puzzled voice. Xiao Lulang paused and said, "My older brother was also infected with leprosy. There was a barefoot doctor who gave him a prescription that was handed down from his ancestors. I personally saw my brother get better after drinking it." His brother had leprosy. The original host had heard him mention it by chance. The original host was stupid and didn't understand what leprosy was, so she didn't take it to heart and didn't mention it to anyone. Feng Lin knew about this matter. It was precisely because Xiao Liulang's elder brother had contracted leprosy that he was despised by the villagers, that he had to leave his hometown and come to Qingchuan town to study. Along the way, the two of them bumped into each other. After asking for his identity, Feng Lin found out that the other party was his neighbor when he was young. However, Feng Lin's family had moved away. After not seeing each other for many years, both of them had changed a lot. If it wasn't for their names, Feng Lin wouldn't have been able to recognize him. Since he's getting better, why did he pass away? Gu Jiao asked. Xiao Lulang lowered his gaze and said, the news of him contracting leprosy was leaked, and he was taken to Leprosy Mountain by the soldiers. Not long after, he died of illness on the mountain. So that was the case. Gu Jiao nodded and said, is this the prescription your brother used to treat his illness? Xiao Lulang nodded and said, her symptoms are very light right now, similar to my brother's. If she is treated properly, there might be a chance to cure her. Gu Jiao already understood the prescription. It was the right medicine, but the effect was very slow. It could only slow down the development of leprosy. It was still difficult to cure it. However, Gu Jiao didn't say anything. Feng Lin took the prescription and said, I'll go get the medicine. Xiao Lulang reminded him, remember to go to different pharmacies. Feng Lin paused for a moment and suddenly understood. I understand. They couldn't let anyone see that this was a prescription for leprosy. Otherwise, they would be exposed. I'll go too, Gu Xiaoshan said. What are you going to do? Feng Lin didn't want to go with him. Gu Xiaoshan raised his eyebrows and said, I'm going to prevent you from reporting it to the authorities. Don't think that he didn't hear it. This guy just urged his brother-in-law to send his sister to Leprosy Mountain. Feng Lin rolled his eyes. If Xiao Lulang didn't touch the old lady, he would definitely report it to the authorities. However, Xiao Lulang had already touched the old lady. If he reported it to the authorities, wouldn't he be arrested together with Xiao Lulang? No matter what, Gu Xiaoshan was very determined to follow him. So Feng Lin had no choice but to bring him along. It was impossible to take the ox cart. If the news was leaked, it would be dangerous. The two of them walked to the major pharmacies in town. About 2 hours later, they bought all the medicine and a medicine jar. Gu Jiao took the medicine to the kitchen to boil it. While waiting for the medicine, Gu Jiao asked Xiao Lulang, why did you come back? I heard that Gu Dashan moved to the dormitory. Xiao Lulang told Gu Jiao about the collapse of the dormitory. As expected, Gu Jiao thought to herself. However, there was a surprised expression on her face. Fortunately, you're fine. Xiao Lulang looked at her deeply. The backyard was too cold. Gu Jiao tidied up the small room where the grains were stored. She moved a bamboo bed inside and covered it with cotton wool. It could barely be considered a bed. You guys can go out. I'll feed her, Gu Jiao said to them. Sister, you have to be careful, Gu Xiaoshan said worriedly. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Gu Jiao sent them out and quietly took out the small medicine box hidden in the basket. Xiao Liulang's judgment was correct. This patient was indeed in the early stages of leprosy. Moreover, she belonged to the rare type of leprosy. There were few skin lesions, and it was not very contagious. As long as the symptoms were treated correctly, she could completely recover without any sequelae. However, her coma was not caused by leprosy. It was caused by excessive fatigue. Her clothes were torn and her shoes were broken. Gu Jiao could not help but think of the soldiers she met in town. Could it be that she was the patient who escaped from Leprosy Mountain? After the old lady regained consciousness, Gu Jiao took out chlorodiphenylsulfone and rifampicin from the medicine box and fed them to her. She also added a special medicine from the research institute. As for the bowl of Chinese medicine, she also fed some to the old lady. However, the old lady seemed to dislike bitter medicine and spat it out with a look of disgust. Old lady, where are you from? Gu Jiao tried to ask about the old lady's background so that she could safely send her back. However, the old lady calmly looked at Gu Jiao, snorted, and fell asleep. Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao tidied up her things and went to the backyard to wash her hands. Sister, Gu Xiaoshan, who had been waiting in the backyard, greeted her. Why did you come out so late? The old lady drinks medicine slowly, so I fed her for a while. Gu Jiao said casually. Cough. Gu Xiaoshan looked around and asked softly. Sister, can she really be cured? I heard that leprosy cannot be cured. Gu Jiao smiled faintly. Don't worry. It can be cured. Gu Xiaoshan had never heard that leprosy could be cured. However, for some reason, When his sister said this, he inexplicably believed her. If his sister said it could be cured, then it could definitely be cured. It was getting late. Gu Xiaoshan and Feng Lin should also go back. Before leaving, Feng Lin secretly said to Xiao Lulang, "Brother Xiao, I know that you are a chivalrous person and can't bear to leave someone in the lurch. However, I still have to remind you that leprosy cannot be cured. You should take advantage of the fact that no one in the village knows, and quickly send her away when she wakes up." He couldn't blame Xiao Lulang for doing something wrong. This was because Xiao Lulang had saved him from the fire at the relay station, without even recognizing him. Brother Xiao was such a chivalrous person. Also pay attention to that evil woman. She has more contact with the patients. If she has a name. Xiao Lulang interrupted Feng Lin. Feng Lin was stunned. He looked at Xiao Lulang in confusion. To be honest, Xiao Lulang was not a person who would warm up after interacting with him for a long time. He always had an unapproachable aura around him. If it wasn't for the fact that he saved his life, Feng Lin would probably think that he was an extremely cold youth. However, he increasingly felt that Xiao Lulang was treating that evil woman differently recently. "Brother Xiao, you have changed." Chapter 22. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that can't be found online will be available here. The four of them knew the seriousness of this matter. Although they didn't say it out loud, they all tacitly kept it a secret. Gu Jiao told Gu Xiaoshan not to come here for the next few days. Although the early stage of leprosy was not very infectious, there was still a certain risk. Gu Jiao didn't go up the mountain to pick mushrooms again. She stayed at home to take care of the old lady for a few days. Probably because she took good care of her, the old lady completely woke up at noon on the third day. She was no longer in a daze, but there seemed to be something wrong with her brain. When Gu Jiao asked her who she was, she looked at Gu Jiao with her eyes wide open. When Gu Jiao asked her where she lived, she still looked at Gu Jiao with her eyes wide open. Could it be Alzheimer's? Do you still remember what disease you have? Gu Jiao continued to ask. The old lady still looked at her with her eyes wide open. Gu Jiao was at her wit's end. It seemed that not only did the old lady not remember who she was, she even forgot about her illness. In fact, it was also good that she forgot. Gu Jiao could prevent her from going out, but she couldn't prevent the villagers from coming. If the old lady accidentally leaked the news of leprosy, she, Xiao Lulang and Gu Xiaoshan, who were close to her, would all suffer. As for how to deal with her in the future, that was a matter for the future. The most important thing now was to cure her, and not let anyone find out that she had leprosy. With that in mind, Gu Jiao picked up the medicine bottle, and went to boil the medicine for the old lady. She had to take the medicine in the medicine box. Otherwise, the secret of the medicine box would be exposed. When the old lady saw Gu Jiao holding the medicine bottle, she turned her face away in disgust. Gu Jiao vaguely heard a resentful snort. This old lady had a bad temper? The medicine had to be simmered for an hour. While waiting for the medicine, Gu Jiao took out the small medicine box and checked it. She had used a lot of medicine recently and hadn't had a chance to count them. She had to see how much medicine she had left and which she couldn't use anymore. In the end, she was a little dumbfounded after the examination. There was a new bottle of anti-inflammatory medicine and a spare antibacterial ointment. There were also a few more bottles of medicine that she didn't remember when she put them in. Gu Jiao looked at the motionless medicine box, rubbed his chin, and fell into deep thought. Near the end of the month, the academy had another exam. Gu Dashun had entered elite class A with the halo of being ranked second amongst the freshmen. After that, he did not disappoint and performed exceptionally well. This time, he got second place again. Teacher Chen was very happy, but Gu Dashuan's face did not show much joy. Teacher Chen thought that he was blaming himself for not getting first place and patiently comforted him. You and Hanji are both outstanding among the freshmen. Hanji is older than you by 2 years and started studying earlier than you. You don't have to worry about your current results. Of course, Gu Dashun was not worried about this. That student called Su Hanji was only slightly more outstanding because he had studied a few years more than him. However, Su Hanji's talent was not as good as his, so he was very confident that he could surpass him. However, his ambition was not limited to this. He wanted to become the direct disciple of the dean. He hoped that the dean would become his teacher. Since the last time he had written many good articles, Teacher Chen had shown them to the dean, but the dean had not summoned him again. What's wrong? Is there anything else? Teacher Chen sensed that he wanted to say something but stopped. Gu Dashun thought for a while and gathered his courage to say, I heard that the entrance exam was set by the dean. Does the dean have any plans to accept a disciple? Yes, he does. Teacher Chen thought for a while and understood. However, it was a pity that the dean did not like Gu Dashun. Gu Dashun saw a trace of pity in Teacher Chen's eyes. His heart sank. Is it Su Hanji? Not him. Teacher Chen shook his head. This matter has not been decided yet. Don't ask. Even if he can't be the dean's disciple, the dean will take time to guide the outstanding students in the academy. How could it be the same? One was to inherit the dean's legacy and be the dean's successor. He would not only get knowledge but also the dean's connections. However, a casual guide would be much weaker. A poor child like him dreamed of soaring to the sky. If he was not outstanding enough, it would be fine. However, he was qualified enough to be chosen by the dean. How could he accept this? Gu Dashun wanted to ask more, but Teacher Chen did not want to say more. Zhongjing Hall. The dean looked at Xiao Lulang with cold eyes and said gently, Have you thought about it? Xiao Lulang said indifferently, You want to be third from the bottom? In this exam, Xiao Lulang was third from the bottom. This was not because he improved by one place, but because Gu Xiaoshan was at the bottom. The dean cleared his throat and said, I won't make it difficult for you. Go back and think about it for a few days. You don't have to rush to give me an answer. I will be at the academy before the new year. When you have thought it through, you can give me an answer. For the dean to say such words, it could be said that he was very sincere. Although the Tianxiang Academy was only a school in a small town, the dean was once the head of the 4 great talents in the capital. His reputation and talent were beyond doubt. If it were not for the misfortune in his family, he would not have left the capital to teach in the small Qingchuan town. He had seen so many students, but Xiao Lulang was the first one that made him want to take him as his disciple. You want him that much? Are you not afraid that you can't subdue this thorn? After Xiao Lulang left, the old man behind the screen snorted indifferently. The dean bowed to the screen and said with a smile, I'm really afraid that I can't subdue him. How about, teacher, take him as your disciple? There was silence behind the screen. After a while, the old man sighed faintly, You forgot. I said that I would never take another disciple in this life. The young marquis was dead, the imperial college was closed forever, and the teacher's heart was completely dead. After school, Xiao Lulang and Gu Xiaoshan sat in second Uncle Luo's ox cart to return to the village. When they left the town, they found that there were several checkpoints on the official road, all of which were searching for leprosy patients. The two became even more vigilant. When Xiao Lulang arrived home, Gu Jiao told him about the old lady's situation. She doesn't remember anything. Xiao Lulang did not think that this was a bad thing, at least not for now. If she did not know, she would not have let it slip. Did she want to go out? Xiao Lulang asked. Gu Jiao shook her head. She didn't. I told her that she had tuberculosis and could not go out in the wind. The red spots on her face were caused by the cold. Because tuberculosis is contagious, it is best for her to stay in her room to avoid spreading the disease to others. Looking at her, she seemed to have listened to me and was quite well behaved the whole afternoon. Xiao Lulang went to see the old lady in the room. Her situation had improved a lot. The skin lesions had faded a lot. If one did not look carefully, it was almost impossible to see the red spots on her face. What Gu Jiao did not say was that after a few more days of treatment, the old lady's leprosy would no longer be contagious. In the blink of an eye, it was the end of the month. It was also the day that Feng Lin and Dr. Zhang agreed to treat Xiao Liulang's leg. Chapter 23. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Jiao and Xiao Lulang both got up early. Xiao Lulang went to the entrance of the village to get water. Gu Jiao first went to the small house to check on the old lady's condition. The red spots on her face were almost invisible, and the skin on the back of her hand had basically disappeared. Although it was still far from a complete cure, her contagious disease had been stopped. Gu Jiao rubbed her chin with satisfaction and turned to the kitchen to boil medicine for her. Looking at the bitter medicine in front of her, the old lady rolled her eyes in disgust. In order to make it easier for her to drink the medicine, Gu Jiao had Xiao Lulang bring some candied fruits from town. The old lady liked to eat candied fruits, but she didn't drink medicine, so she didn't have any candied fruits to eat. Gu Jiao put a bowl of medicine and a small plate of candied fruits on the table at the same time. So little. Only 3. The old lady was seriously dissatisfied with the amount of candied fruits. Candied fruits are very expensive. If you don't want to eat it, then forget it. Gu Jiao said as she reached out to take the plate of candied fruits. The old lady glared at Gu Jiao with hidden bitterness. She grabbed the candied fruits in her arms and drank the bowl of medicine bitterly. Because Xiao Lulang had to go to the clinic today, Gu Jiao also had to go, but she couldn't leave the old lady alone at home. It wasn't that Gu Jiao didn't consider bringing the old lady along, but the checkpoint was still there. If the officials recognized the old lady, then all their previous efforts would be wasted. Although she wasn't sure if the old lady was the leper patient they were trying to catch, it was better to be safe than sorry. After thinking about it again and again, Gu Jiao called Gu Xiaoshan over. "Sister, you're finally willing to let me in." Gu Xiaoshan said with a face full of excitement. Gu Jiao said, "I'm going to accompany your brother-in-law to town today. You stay at home and help me take care of the old lady. I've already disinfected the house." Gu Xiaoshan didn't understand what disinfection meant, nor did he ask how his sister knew that the disease was fatal. He agreed without any hesitation. "Okay, sister, don't worry. I will keep an eye on her. I've heated up lunch in the pot. You can just bring her a portion." Gu Jiao continued to instruct. Gu Xiaoshan patted her chest and said, "Sister, don't worry about me." Thinking of something, Gu Jiao reminded her. "If anyone asks, just say that you're a relative of your brother-in-law and came to seek shelter with him." Gu Xiaoshan said obediently, "Okay." As soon as Gu Jiao and Xiao Lulang left, the thugs who had been following Gu Xiaoshan came knocking on their door. "Boss, I've finally seen you. I heard that you went to study. You're still playing De Shun's tricks. Let's go. Let's go do some work. Get lost. I have something important to do." Gu Xiaoshan drove them away without thinking. Although he had been holding it in for too long, he had to do what his sister asked him to do. When Gu Jiao and Xiao Lulang arrived at Huichun Hall, Feng Lin had been pacing back and forth at the door for a while. Originally, he had agreed to meet Huichun Hall at 9 o'clock a.m. But he was worried that there would be too many people looking for Dr. Zhang, so he came at 7 o'clock a.m. Who would have thought that he would wait here for more than an hour? But there was no sign of a queue. He was puzzled when he saw Xiao Lulang and Gu Jiao. His face immediately sank. "Why are you here?" Gu Jiao smiled faintly. "I'm here to take a look." Feng Lin didn't understand. Didn't he hear that this evil woman had taken a fancy to someone else? Why has she been pestering Brother Xiao recently? She even followed Brother Xiao to treat his illness. Brother Xiao was really too much. Treating an illness was such an important matter. Why did he have to bring trouble along? What if he messed up? Feng Lin coldly said, "I'm warning you. When we enter the clinic, you are not allowed to speak carelessly or touch other people's things. Don't cause trouble for Brother Xiao and delay his treatment." "Oh," Gu Jiao responded. She was not impatient or angry. Xiao Lulang frowned and glanced at Feng Lin before walking in with his walking stick. The person who received them was shopkeeper Wang. Shopkeeper Wang had also been waiting for a long time. He came over with a smile and glanced at Gu Jiao without leaving a trace. He said to Feng Lin with a smile, "Young Master Feng, you're here. This must be young Master Feng's friend, young Master Xiao, right? I'm Hui Chun Hall shopkeeper Wang. Xiao Lulang faintly nodded. Shopkeeper Wang was secretly amazed. This young master Xiao was too handsome. He was obviously wearing shabby clothes, but he was more refined and elegant than any other young master he had ever seen. This is... Shopkeeper Wang looked at Gu Jiao as if he did not know her at all. Xiao Lulang paused. My wife is from the Gu family. Shopkeeper Wang cupped his hands and smiled. So it's Madame Xiao. Sorry for the disrespect. Shopkeeper Wang, is Dr. Zhang really here? Why is there not a single patient waiting in line? Feng Lin asked. Alas, isn't it because Dr. Zhang's injury has not healed yet, so he can't receive a large number of patients? I didn't release the news and only informed a few patients who were really in a hurry. You're the only one in the morning. The rest will be in the afternoon. Shopkeeper Wang already knew that Feng Lin would ask, so he had already prepared the words in advance. I see. Feng Lin did not suspect anything. Shopkeeper Wang smiled. Young Master Feng, please rest in the lobby. I'll bring young Master Xiao inside to treat Dr. Zhang. Can't I go in? Feng Lin asked. Shopkeeper Wang smiled. I'm afraid that's against the rules. Feng Lin thought for a moment and nodded. All right then, I'll leave Brother Xiao to you. Shopkeeper Wang, you must let Dr. Zhang treat him. Shopkeeper Wang glanced at Gu Jiao out of the corner of his eye and smiled. We'll do our best. After Xiao Lulang and Shopkeeper Wang entered the room in the back row, Gu Jiao also stood up. What are you doing? Feng Lin asked cautiously. Going to the toilet. Gu Jiao said. Feng Lin's face turned red. Go early and come back early. Don't run around. Gu Jiao carried the small basket and went to the courtyard in the back row. When she entered the room, Xiao Lulang had already fallen asleep on the rattan chair. Shopkeeper Wang and the second boss were both there. Miss Gu. The second boss cupped his hands. Gu Jiao's gaze swept across the incense burner on the table and landed on Xiao Liulang's sleeping face. She asked, Is there any problem with this incense? The second boss said with a pleasant expression, It's just a calming incense. It's made by our Huichun Hall and won't harm the body. Is Miss Gu going to treat him now? Yes. Gu Jiao walked over and placed the small basket on the table. Inside it was her medicine chest. However, she didn't intend to take it out in front of them. The second boss actually wanted to ask Gu Jiao why she didn't directly tell him that young Master Xiao was her husband. Or was it that they weren't really husband and wife? However, the second boss was a smart person. When opening a business, one must have more ears and less mouth. In the end, he didn't ask a single question. Digression. Jiao Jiao. I'm surrounded by smart people. Xiao Shun. That's right. Jiao Jiao. That let me correct Xiao Shu. Chapter 24. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Jiao pulled up the screen and examined Xiao Lulang inside. Gu Jiao had observed Xiao Lulang when they were at home and found that his problem was mainly in his ankle. After a careful examination, Gu Jiao was sure of her guess. His ankle had been broken before, but the doctor didn't diagnose it. He thought that he only hurt his leg, so he only treated his leg. But even if he didn't deliberately treat it, his leg was immobilized, so he didn't need to treat his ankle. The ankle grew back by itself, but the broken bones inside were not cleaned up, so he would feel pain when he walked. He had never shown it, so Gu Jiao guessed that it was just a normal ankle joint stiffness, which didn't hurt. Now that it was diagnosed, she understood how much restraint he used to endure it. Alas, what a pitiful child. Gu Jiao had done many operations like this in her previous life, so it wasn't difficult for her. It was just that the medicine and consumables hadn't appeared in the medicine box yet. But, thinking of the discovery a few days ago, Gu Jiao decided to wait. Besides, it wasn't a good time for the operation now. His injury needed some treatment first. So it was better to wait until the end of the year, when the academy was on holiday. Boss Air and shopkeeper Wang waited outside the screen all the time, not spying at all. Boss Air had planned to let the doctors of Tongchun Medicine Hall observe Gu Jiao's medical skills. But it seemed a bit abrupt to make such a request, since it was the first time. So he didn't. Just now, Gu Jiao went in and closed the screen. This attitude in itself showed that Gu Jiao didn't want to reveal her medical skills. Thinking of this, Boss Air was a bit glad that he didn't ask to observe. But Boss Air guessed wrong. It was not that Gu Jiao didn't want to reveal her medical skills, but she didn't want others to see her medicine box. Gu Jiao stayed inside for a long time. She examined for 15 minutes and admired the beauty for half an hour. Cough. She didn't take off her clothes, no. Gu Jiao put the small medicine box into the basket on her back and walked out with the basket. The second master welcomed her with a polite smile. Miss Gu has been inside for so long. Is it because young Master Zhao's injuries are very complicated? Gu Jiao's expression did not change as she said, "It is quite complicated. I need to perform an operation on him." It was true that it was complicated. And it was also true that he was looking at beauties. When he heard about surgery, the second boss was a little dazed. Surgery was a medical skill that was only used on the battlefield, and it was rarely touched by the common people. Firstly, it was too risky. Secondly, it was too demanding on the doctor's medical skills. Even the doctors in their Huichun Hall did not dare to use a knife on the wounded. Are you sure? The second boss had a look of doubt on his face. The last doctor in Huichun Hall who dared to use a knife on people was already 50 years old. And he was the descendant of a medical family. Okay. Gu Jiao nodded. I'll think about the date first. I'll let you know when I've decided. In addition, there are some things that I need to trouble the second boss to prepare. The silver will be deducted from my next consultation fee. It's no problem. The second boss smiled. Huichun Hall was not a place for charity. The patients who came here all had to spend money. The better the medical skills, the more generous the consultation fee. But, are you able to treat all kinds of illnesses? The second boss asked. That's not the case. Gu Jiao said. I'll only know after I see it. It's best if you find some difficult and miscellaneous illnesses for me. Don't waste the number of consultations. Listen, this was confidence. The second boss did not think that she was boasting shamelessly. In fact, anyone who had seen her medical skills had reason to believe that she could bring the dead back to life. Gu Jiao needed to find some medicinal herbs for Xiao Lulang to make a medicinal smoke, so she carried the basket to the main hall. The second boss smiled strangely. Old Wang with her medical skills, do you think she can treat that person in the capital? That person in the capital. Shopkeeper Wang was stunned and only reacted after a while. You're talking about the young master of the Marquis' estate? The second boss's eyes lit up. That's him. Shopkeeper Wang hurriedly waved his hand. No, you can't. You can't. That was the nobility of the capital. In front of them, Huichun Hall was only a commoner. It was not enough to look at. I see that Miss Gu's medical skills are not bad. Second boss, we only have one head. Shopkeeper Wang cruelly extinguished the second boss's thoughts. It was not that he was unwilling to earn money from the Marquis' estate, but that young master's illness was really not easy to treat. If it was not treated well, he would die. Speaking of which, that young master was also pitiful. When the Marquis gave birth to him, she was not even a month old and gave birth in a run-down temple. She did not have a midwife with her, so she found one from a nearby village. Premature birth, poor birth conditions, and the midwife's skills were not good. When the child was born, the Marquis was half dead. To make matters worse, the Marquis was pregnant with twins. After giving birth to the first child, the Marquis's strength was almost exhausted. The second child was held in the womb for a long time, and by the time he came out, his entire body was purple. The young master was the second child, and the one above him was an older sister. The young master was born with a weak illness. He had been taking medicine since he was young, and had been soaked in medicine since he was young. In order to treat the young master's illness, the Marquis' estate had sought out many famous doctors over the years. Unfortunately, the young master's illness did not improve. Instead, because of the frequent use of medicine, it caused him to become weaker. It was said that he was hanging on by one breath. If they were unlucky, the young master would die after they gave him a dose of medicine. If the young master really died in their hands, the heads of all the doctors in Huichun Hall would not be enough to pay with their lives. The second boss also understood the stakes, but he did not give up. He was originally an extremely ambitious person. Otherwise, he would not have seen the great value of Gu Jiao. Speaking of which, that young master and Miss Gu seem to be the same age. The second boss said thoughtfully, "How about this? Let Miss Gu treat Xiao Liulong's injuries first. If she can really treat him, there is no harm in letting her try at the Marquis's estate." Shopkeeper Wang. When Xiao Lulang woke up, there was an old doctor with a white beard in the room. "You are," the old doctor smiled. "I am Dr. Zhang. You fell asleep just now. It's my fault for forgetting to remove the calming incense." Xiao Lulang paused. "It's fine. Let me take a look at your leg." "Okay." The old doctor followed Gu Jiao's instructions and went through the procedures. To be honest, he was very surprised. He had seen Xiao Liulong's leg before. With Huichun Hall's current medical skills, it was impossible to treat it. That girl, did she really have a way to make him stand up again? Xiao Lulang took the old doctor's prescription and went to the main hall. Feng Lin stood up with a whoosh. "You're finally out. What did Dr. Zhang say? Is there any treatment for your leg?" Xiao Lulang grunted. Dr. Zhang said to use the medicine for a period of time and come back next month. In order not to disturb his classes, Gu Jiao did not let the old doctor mention the surgery for the time being. "I told you, Dr. Zhang can definitely treat it." Feng Lin was full of joy. However, Xiao Lulang was looking around. Chapter 25. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found online are all available here. At this moment, Gu Jiao walked over from the backyard with a small basket on her back. "You took so long to go to the toilet," Feng Lin muttered. Xiao Liulong's gaze fell on Gu Jiao. When she came closer, he asked her, "Where are you feeling unwell? Let the doctor take a look." "I'm fine. Let's go," Gu Jiao said. She did not look like she was sick. Xiao Lulang went to get the medicine. When he paid, he found that half a month's worth of medicine was less than 1 tael of silver. "Is there a mistake?" "No, this is the price," the shop assistant said. "I told you earlier. Their business is not good, so they lowered the price." Feng Lin whispered in his ear. But the price was too low. But other than this, Xiao Lulang could not think of any other reason. It could not be that there was a noble person secretly helping him. The group left Huichun Hall. The second boss personally sent them to the door. When he brushed past Gu Jiao, he smiled and stretched out 5 fingers at Gu Jiao. The medicine fee was 5 taels of silver. "Put it on the tab first." Gu Jiao gave him a domineering look. "Deduct it from the consultation fee." Speaking of which, the second boss had not asked her to treat others yet. She did not know what kind of business he would give her when the time came. "Brother Xiao, I'll send you back," Feng Lin said. Xiao Lulang did not allow him to refuse. "No need. Uncle Luo's ox cart is right there. Go back to the academy and study well. You'll have to take the exam next year." Speaking of this, Feng Lin felt a headache coming on. His knowledge was actually not that good. The teacher always said that his essays were too rigid and did not have enough creativity. It would be fine if he met the conservative examiners, but if he met the new examiners, he would definitely fail. Feng Lin sighed. "All right, I'll go to the academy first. Be careful on your way." Then he glared at Gu Jiao again, as if he was worried that Gu Jiao would cause trouble for Xiao Lulang. However, ever since Xiao Lulang said that she had a name, he didn't call her that again. After Feng Lin left, Gu Jiao and Xiao Lulang did not return to the village immediately. Instead, they went to the shop to buy some things. Gu Jiao bought some candied fruits, peanuts, and melon seeds. She found that the old lady was quite easy to coax. As long as she was given something to eat, she could stay in the house for the whole day. Xiao Lulang, on the other hand, bought some brown sugar. He had borrowed brown sugar from Auntie Zhang last time, and had yet to return it to her. When the two of them carried the things onto the ox cart, second Uncle Luo smiled. Where are the New Year's goods? It's about time. It's almost the end of the year. The two of them were stunned at the same time. They suddenly realized that it was almost the end of the year. In fact, the two of them were not living in a daze. It was just that they didn't have the habit or plan to celebrate the new year. The New Year's Eve, when the whole family reunited, was always the loneliest day for them. In her previous life, Gu Jiao had left home at the age of 8 and lived in the organization's experimental base. The organization would have a collective holiday on New Year's Eve. In the end, she was the only one left in the empty base. Gu Jiao didn't know much about Xiao Liulong's situation. Perhaps he had been lively before, but it was all gone. She was a lonely soul in a different world, and he was a lonely guest in a foreign land. Second Uncle Luo's words left the two of them at a loss. But the two of them didn't say anything. They just silently got on the ox cart with the things in their hands. The ox cart moved slowly. When they arrived at the village, the sky was already dark. Second Uncle Luo drove the ox cart back to his house. Gu Jiao threw everything into her small basket and walked with Xiao Lulang in the direction of their house. Halfway there, they saw that something seemed to have happened in front of their house. There was a group of people surrounding their house. There were 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. It was so tight that not even a drop of water could trickle through. There were faint sounds of cursing coming from inside. Aunt Zhang, who couldn't leave because she had to feed her 2 grandsons, shouted at the two of them. Aya Lulang, what took you so long to come back? Something happened at your house. What happened, Aunt Zhang? Xiao Lulang asked. The Gu family came to visit. They're arguing with your great-aunt. Great-aunt? When did such a person come to their house? Could it be the old lady? The old lady had dementia. She would be bullied badly. Gu Jiao turned to Xiao Lulang and said, I'll go take a look first. Aunt Zhang hurriedly said, Hurry up and go. Your grandmother isn't easy to deal with. Gu Jiao had been here for so long, but she hadn't seen the original owner's grandmother. She only knew that her surname was Wu. When she was young, she was a shrew. Later she married Old Man Gu. Old Man Gu was a scholar. Later he became the village chief. Normally, after Madame Wu married him, she should have restrained herself. However, Madame Wu became more and more arrogant. In the village, Madame Wu was the most difficult person to provoke. That was why Aunt Zhang was worried that Xiao Liulong's great-aunt would be bullied. When Gu Jiao arrived at the door of her house, she found that all the women of the Gu family were there. Madame Wu and her 2 daughters-in-law, Madame Zhou and Madame Lu. Of course, Gu Xiaoshan and Gu Erzhun were also there. Gu Erzhun stood next to his mother. Gu Xiaoshan stood next to the old lady. However, it was a little different from what Aunt Zhang had described. Because it seemed that Madame Wu and the other 2 were the ones being scolded. You. If you have the guts, say what you just said again. Madame Wu put her hands on her hips and pointed at the old lady. The old lady asked someone to bring her a stool. She sat on the stool boldly, crossed her legs and grabbed a handful of melon seeds. While eating, she said casually, Why should I say it again? Is there something wrong with your brain that you can't understand? Or are you deaf? Madame Wu had been domineering in the village for so many years, but she had never been humiliated like this. It was no wonder that her 2 daughters-in-law invited her to come over and scold her. The 2 daughters-in-law couldn't withstand this old woman's skills at all. I don't care. You must send the tail of silver to me tonight. Madame Wu couldn't win, and began to act shamelessly. The old lady spat the shells of melon seeds all over her face. Bah! Did he eat your rice or eat your porridge? Even prostitutes are more shameless than you. Not to mention 1 tael of silver. He won't even give a copper coin. She actually compared Madame Wu to those indecent women in the brothel. Madame Wu was about to explode with anger. Madame Wu said, You. The old lady didn't give Madame Wu a chance to speak at all. Also, don't say that it was my Jiao who ate it. How much did she eat? How much did you ask from Lulang? My Jiao originally wanted to take in a son-in-law from the Gu family, but you didn't stop and drove them out. Since they were driven out, it has nothing to do with your Gu family. Madame Wu trembled with anger. That's just a branch of the family. What did she mean by driving them out? If such words spread out, would the Gu family's reputation still be intact? The old lady cracked another melon seed. Oh, you admit that you've separated from the family. Since you've separated from the family, why do you still ask Lulang to subsidize you with money? Where's your shame? You used it to paste the wall. Madame Wu was choked and rolled her eyes. Where did this crazy woman come from? Simple, simple, simple. She was so angry. The villagers were about to die of laughter. Madame Wu's mouth had never lost a quarrel in the village, but today she was rebuked like a sawing gourd. The separation of the family was originally the Gu family's fault, but at that time, the Gu family claimed that it was Xiao Liulang's idea. Since Xiao Lulang didn't want to live with the Gu family, the villagers couldn't say anything. The villagers also knew that Gu Jiao always ate at the Gu family's house, but they didn't expect that the Gu family actually received money. Gu Jiao was only a 14-year-old girl. How much rice could she eat? But the Gu family asked Xiao Lulang to give them one tael every month. Wasn't this extortion? Chapter 26. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online here. Her mother-in-law had a loose tongue. After quarreling for a long time, she had been coaxed for a long time. Everything that should be said and should not be said came out in one go. If this went on, the Gu family's background would be exposed by her mother-in-law. The two sisters-in-law exchanged a look and made a decision in their hearts. They couldn't let them argue anymore, and had to quickly pull their mother-in-law back. Mother, let's not lower ourselves to her level. Let's go back first. Madame Zhou stepped forward and grabbed Madame Wu's arm. Madame Lu also walked over and grabbed Madame Wu's other arm. Yes, mother, let's not argue with this crazy woman. If they had said so at the beginning, the villagers might have believed them. But after the fight, Madame Wu and her two daughters-in-law had become angry. But the old lady was calm and composed. If someone were to say that she was a crazy woman, it would be Madame Wu. The villagers' expressions of watching a good show completely angered Madame Wu. Madame Wu rolled up her sleeves and spat. You old bastard. Do you know who I am? I'm Li Zheng's wife. Ah. The old lady rolled her eyes. And I'm the emperor's mother. The people around all laughed. This old lady was a bit interesting. She really didn't care about the severity of her words. She wasn't afraid of being beheaded if word got out. Madame Wu herself was a troublemaker, but she met someone who was more skilled than her. Since she couldn't win, she planned to directly attack. I must drive you out of the village today. Before she finished speaking, the old lady poured a basin of cold water over her, and Madame Wu was petrified on the spot. Then, the old lady turned around and entered the house. She didn't want the stool or the Gu Shaoshan. She closed the door with a bang and bolted the door. She ran away quite quickly. Everyone laughed until their stomachs hurt. Just now, the old lady was so aggressive that they thought she would fight with Madame Wu to the end. But it turned out that she was not blinded by anger. She knew that she could not beat Madame Wu and the other two, so she first splashed Madame Wu's head, and then took the opportunity to lock Madame Wu's mother-in-law and daughter-in-law outside. Madame Wu had never been so annoyed before. She found a stone on the ground and rushed up to smash the door. But before the stone could hit the door, a shining sickle flew over with a swoosh and slammed into the door. Madame Wu was shocked, and the hand holding the stone instantly froze. If the sickle had been half an inch higher, it would have cut into her hand. Madame Wu was so shocked that she loosened her grip. The stone fell to the ground and hit her own foot. Ouch! Madame Wu screamed. How small could the stone used to smash the door be? She had specially chosen the biggest piece. Madame Wu was in so much pain that tears came out of her eyes. The sickle flew over quickly, and so did Madame Wu's foot. It was too much for everyone to take in. It had been a long time since there had been such a big commotion in the village. Everyone turned around and saw Gu Jiao calmly walking forward. She carried a small basket on her back. Her thin figure looked harmless, but there was a murderous look in her cold eyes. Everyone involuntarily shrank their necks and automatically made way for her. God knew how she threw the sickle. If she didn't throw it at the door, wouldn't she have thrown it at the back of someone's head? Thinking of this, everyone couldn't help but feel a chill at the back of their heads. Madame Lu was the first to react. She scolded. Jiao, you came back just in time. Hurry up and let the crazy woman open the door. Look at how she smashed your foot. Ha, Gu Jiao sneered. Old people have poor eyesight. Second aunt. Are you blind at such a young age? Don't you know who moved the stone here and who threw it at her foot? Madame Lu was dumbfounded when she heard this. This girl, how could she be so good at insulting people? If she had pulled Gu Dashan and kicked Gu Xiaoshan in the past, she was just being stupid. But scolding her and Madame Wu for being blind in front of everyone was a clear sign of falling out with the Gu family. You stinky girl. How dare you scold your grandmother? Madame Wu rolled up her sleeves and was about to walk forward, but she almost fell to the ground because of the pain. Madame Zhou hurriedly supported her mother-in-law. Mother, be careful. Madame Wu was in pain and anger. She pointed at Gu Jiao's nose and scolded. Little beast. Why didn't I drown you in the past? At this time, Xiao Lulang came over. Xiao Lulang and Gu Jiao had been going out together frequently recently. The village had long heard that they were back together, but he had never responded directly. So many people still guessed that everything was just wishful thinking of the Gu family's fool. Lulang, look at what your great-aunt and Jianyang have done. Your grandmother is so old. Madame Zhou scolded Xiao Lulang. Unexpectedly, before she finished her words, Xiao Lulang said indifferently, since you are old, don't wander around. Madame Zhou doubted that she had heard it wrong. Are you all right? Xiao Lulang went to Gu Jiao and asked. No. Gu Jiao shook her head and took the sickle from the door. Xiao Lulang said to the door. Great-aunt, we are back. The door creaked open. Xiao Lulang and Gu Jiao went in. Everyone looked at each other. Were they hallucinating just now? Xiao Lulang really talked to Fool Gu? And asked if she was all right? Did they really get back together? Xiao Lulang closed the door after entering the room, but he didn't close it tightly. They could hear his unhurried voice. If you encounter this kind of thing in the future, report it to the government. I will go to the government office personally to write a complaint. As soon as these words came out, Madame Wu and the other two who wanted to rush in were directly stunned. Could this kind of thing be reported to the government office? Xiao Lulang said it so confidently. He should be able to take revenge, right? The little cripple's heart was so black. Mother, the things of the third branch. Madame Zhou reminded her in a low voice. There was indeed something fishy about the separation of the family. The fields of the third branch and the dowry of the third daughter-in-law were all taken by them. If they really went to the government office, they were afraid that they would be found out. Madame Wu gritted her teeth and left with her two daughters-in-law. The parties involved had left, and the onlookers also went back to their own homes. Gu Erzhan also left. Only Gu Xiaoshan went around the village, and then went to his sister and brother-in-law's house. Gu Jiao and Xiao Lulang sat on the chairs in the central room, while the old lady sat on the bench opposite them. She was still sitting with her legs crossed and eating melon seeds. She didn't seem to realize that she should explain herself for stirring up trouble. In fact, it was not only the people in the village who felt that Gu Jiao and Xiao Lulang were different from what they had imagined. Even the two of them felt that they had misjudged the old lady. She didn't know what to do, didn't know what to ask, and reacted in a dull way. Gu Jiao really thought that she had Alzheimer's. But just now, when she was arguing with Madame Wu, she was like a master who suddenly appeared in the novice village. Have you been pretending these days? Gu Jiao asked. The old lady said angrily. Is this how you talk to your grand-aunt? Are you addicted to acting? No, it didn't seem like she was acting. Gu Jiao said to Gu Xiaoshan seriously, come with me. Chapter 27. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet. Gu Jiao closed the door. Tell me what happened today. Gu Xiaoshan honestly told her about his nursing experience. In fact, it was nothing. The two of them had nothing to do, so they were eating melon seeds. Gu Xiaoshan was tricked by the old lady. Tell me which one of the two unfilial sons is my grandson? This was the old lady's first sentence. It turned out that the old lady really did not remember anything. She woke up in the Gu family and Xiao Liulong's house, so she naturally regarded herself as a member of the family. However, the two of them were a little cold to her. Not only did they not eat at the same table with her, but they also did not allow her to go out for a walk. Were they trying to suffocate her to death? Gu Xiaoshan remembered his sister's advice, and did not dare to tell the old lady that she actually had leprosy. However, he could not really say that his sister and brother-in-law were her biological grandchildren. In a hurry, he said that she was his brother-in-law's great-aunt, and that she came all the way here to seek refuge with him. Gu Jiao did not expect that the old lady did not have Alzheimer's, so she did not give Gu Xiaoshan a set of excuses to deal with her. Then she said, "Why does it seem that your sister is in charge of the family?" I said, "Isn't that right? My brother-in-law married into the family." She asked again, "Why didn't I see anyone else?" I said that you guys split up. Hearing this, Gu Jiao held her forehead. How was she in charge of the family? She and Xiao Lulang had been busy with their own things, and occasionally had a meal together. Xiaoshan, this fool, had been tricked by the old lady. No wonder the old lady did not stop scolding the Gu family. She had understood the enemy's situation thoroughly from Gu Xiaoshan. Then why did she always ignore me when I asked her before? She thought that she was slow to respond. Gu Xiaoshan said, "She said you're unfilial and doesn't want to talk to you." Gu Jiao. Wasn't it just a few fewer candied plums? Gu Jiao came to the central room. Obviously, Xiao Lulang had talked with the old lady. I don't know how Xiao Lulang threatened her. The old lady didn't have the arrogance just now. She was a little listless. I'm so sleepy after the fight. I'm going to sleep first. Wake me up when the meal is ready. The old lady snorted and went back to her room to sleep. Gu Jiao looked at Xiao Lulang. Xiao Lulang paused and said, "Back then, the doctor said that the medicine has to be taken according to the prescription for a year, but if the recovery is fast, it will lose its infectivity in a month." He did not forcefully persuade Gu Jiao to keep the old lady. He only told Gu Jiao that she would not pass on the medicine soon. He hoped that Gu Jiao would agree to keep the old lady. Gu Jiao didn't know that this little black sesame rice ball would show pity to strangers. Perhaps the old lady reminded him of his older brother, who passed away early. His older brother's death had always been a regret in his heart. He might have thought more than once that if his older brother had not been captured and taken to Leprosy Mountain, and had continued to take that prescription, would he have been able to recover in the end? All right, then we'll let Grandaunt stay for now, Gu Jiao said with a sigh. She didn't plan on chasing her away, but it would be good if she could do him a favor. They would accept her as their Grandaunt for now. This was the safest way. Reality proved that their decision was correct because that night, a group of soldiers broke into Clear Spring Village and went door to door to search for the patient who had escaped from Leprosy Mountain. The only guest in the village was the old lady. When they found out that she had only recently come to the village, the soldiers rushed into Gu Jiao and Xiao Liulong's home without another word. When the soldiers came, the old lady had already finished eating and was warming herself by the fire. The husband and wife were still eating at the table. Dinner was quite sumptuous. There was a bowl of fried cabbage with bacon, a plate of green onion omelette, a pot of mushroom soup, a bowl of black fungus salad, and a plate of peanuts that went with wine. Of course, no one drank wine. The fragrance of the bacon and green onion omelette wafted over, and instantly made the soldiers' stomachs rumble with hunger. "Officers, is something the matter?" Xiao Lulang asked. The soldiers came back to their senses and stated their purpose. "I heard that an old lady came to your home. Where is she?" Xiao Lulang brought them to the old lady's room. "My grandaunt. She just came from Sioux County a few days ago." As he spoke, he walked forward and took the plate that the old lady did not have time to hide. "You're secretly eating candied fruits again. Didn't I say that you're old and can't eat too many sweets?" Humph. The old lady was caught red-handed and turned her face away with hidden bitterness. The The soldiers did not have a portrait of a leprosy patient, but their superiors had described her characteristics. They said that leprosy red spots had appeared on her face and the back of her hands. Her complexion was sallow and her spirit was weak. The old lady in front of them, other than her age, was different in every other way. Not only did she not have any leprosy spots, her complexion was rosy and her spirit was unbelievably good. Leprosy could not be cured. There were some prescriptions that could delay the onset of the disease, but it was impossible to make someone recover so well in just 10 days. The soldiers' suspicions were mostly gone. When they saw that Xiao Luleng did not avoid or dislike the old lady, they felt that it was even more unlikely. But the leader did not dare to lower his guard. He went to the kitchen and pointed at the medicine jar on the stove. "Whose medicine is this?" Xiao Luleng said. "It's mine. I have a leg injury. I went to the town's medical center to get this medicine." "Let me see the medicine bag," the other party said. Gu Jiao went to get the medicine bag. The man opened the bag and found Panax noto ginseng inside. Panax noto ginseng was a very common medicinal herb that could promote blood circulation and remove blood stasis. People who practiced martial arts were not unfamiliar with it. Panax noto ginseng was also a common medicine for injuries. With these two medicinal herbs, they could be sure that it was not used to treat leprosy. "What is your name?" the man asked. "Xiao Luleng." Xiao Luleng said with a straight face, "If the officials have any doubts about my identity, you can go to Tianxiang Academy and ask the dean to check my household registration." The man frowned. "The dean of Tianxiang Academy? His surname is Li?" "That's right," Xiao Luleng said. The officials exchanged glances and their attitude towards Xiao Luleng became more polite. Generally speaking, there was no need to go to the dean to check household registration. Xiao Luleng specifically mentioned him to tell them that he was someone that Dean Li wanted to protect. Although Xiao Luleng did not want to be the dean's disciple, it did not prevent him from using the dean's authority to intimidate others. When his face was thick, there was no pressure at all. Dean Li's name was very useful. After the officials asked a few more questions, they withdrew and left. However, the officials did not go far. Instead, they sent someone to quietly return and enter Xueningsiang's house next door. "Is the old lady next door really that brat's aunt?" "Yes." "When did you arrive?" "A few days ago," Xueningsiang said. "How come I heard that it was 10 days ago?" The official stared at Xueningsiang's eyes and asked. Xueningsiang said with a straight face, "Who did you hear that from? How come I don't know that I live next door?" The official looked at the 1-year-old son that Xueningsiang was holding in her arms. His eyes flashed with a cold light, but he still left in the end. Xueningsiang's back was soaked with cold sweat. Digression. Ding Jiaojiao's little fangirl is online. Looking for a recommendation ticket. Looking for a 5-star review. Kombikuga mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 28. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more interesting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that can't be found online will be available here. The old lady did come 10 days ago, but she wasn't in a clear state of mind during the first few days. She didn't remember coming so early. So Gu Jiao and Xiao Luleng delayed the old lady's arrival by a few days. This was different from when the old lady went missing in Clear Spring Town. But what Gu Jiao and Xiao Luleng didn't know was that when the old lady collapsed in front of Gu Jiao's door, Xueningsiang heard the commotion. At that time, she felt that there was something wrong with that person. Ah Xiang. Her mother-in-law's voice came from next door. Xueningsiang composed herself and walked to her mother-in-law's room. "Mother, you're awake? I think I heard someone come into the room just now. Did something happen to second brother?" She already lost one of her 2 sons, so the old lady was most worried about her youngest son, who went to the army. Xueningsiang said softly, "Second brother is fine. A patient from Leprosy Mountain ran away. The soldiers came to our place to search, but they already left." "Is it a man or a woman?" How old are they? They didn't say, Xuaningxiang said. How could a leprosy patient run to our place cough cough? Xuaningxiang's mother-in-law coughed violently and mumbled a few words. Then she fell asleep in a daze. Xuaningxiang closed her eyes. Although she wasn't a good person, Gu Jiao saved her life before. The soldiers' search didn't cause a huge uproar in Clear Spring Village. Everyone went on as usual. Gu Jiao occasionally felt that the old lady had a great background. Otherwise, why would so many soldiers search for her and not reveal any information about her to the public? But when Gu Jiao saw the old lady holding a jar of melon seeds and eating them like a squirrel, she instantly felt that she was thinking too much. Gu Jiao had nothing to do, so she mended all of Xiao Liulang's clothes at home. She was right. It would be much easier to make up for the loss if the cloth was treated as human skin. When Xiao Liulang returned home, he found that his tattered clothes had been mended. He didn't need to guess to know that it was Gu Jiao who mended them. Gu Jiao had never sewn clothes before. At least, he hadn't seen her sewing since he came here. But surprisingly, her sewing skills were quite good. The stitches were fine and even. The only thing he didn't understand was that when other people sewed clothes, the ends of the threads were inside. Why did she leave the ends of the threads outside? The old lady's condition was much better than Xiao Liulang's brother's. Xiao Liulang had asked the doctor how long it would take for his brother to lose his infectivity, and the doctor said it would take a month. Although the old lady had been taking the medicine for less than a month, the effects had already far exceeded a month's time. She was already able to eat at the same table. What Xiao Liulang didn't expect was that the old lady would almost choke him to death the first time they ate at the same table. I say. The old lady calmly drank a mouthful of keel corn soup. What's wrong with the two of you? I've been here for so long, but I haven't seen the two of you in the same room. Xiao Liulang and Gu Jiao both choked. My husband is still young, Gu Jiao said without changing her expression. The old lady looked at Xiao Liulang from head to toe and nodded. That's true. He's too young. His body is exhausted. Xiao Liulang was speechless. After Madame Wu and her daughter-in-law suffered at the hands of the old lady, the villagers all wondered if they would find a chance to get back at her. Who would have thought that they wouldn't go out for a few days? In reality, it wasn't that they didn't want to go out. It was that old man Gu didn't allow them to. The matter from last time was very big. Following that, news of it reached Old Man Gu's ears. Old Man Gu was someone who cared a lot about face. He didn't know that Madame Wu and her two daughters-in-law had gone to find Xiao Liulang to ask for money. Before Old Third died, he had promised to take good care of Gu Jiao. Although he didn't say it verbally, the meaning was that he would take care of Gu Jiao for the rest of her life. In the future, he would find her a son-in-law. The reason why he went back on his promise was because he believed that Gu Jiao was a jinx. She had already caused Old Third and his daughter-in-law to die. He couldn't let her jinx Deshun and the others. But Old Man Gu never allowed Madame Wu to ask Gu Jiao and her husband for money. Madame Wu told Old Man Gu that Xiao Liulang wanted to show filial piety to Old Man Gu and provide for Deshun's education. Old Man Gu believed her. Only now did he know the truth. Old Man Gu felt that he had lost all his face. In the future, Liulang also needs to study. Don't ask him for money anymore. Madame Wu vomited blood. Madame Wu said, "What can a cripple do? It's just a waste of money. I heard that he failed the exam this time. Why don't you give the money to Deshun? In the future, when Deshun becomes rich, we will definitely take care of him." Her Deshun was going to be a high official in the future. A high official could casually give a meal, and it would be enough for the little cripple's family to live. Old Man Gu still wanted to save face. The villagers had almost broken his spine. He couldn't bring himself to ask his grandson-in-law for money again. Old Man Gu warned Madame Wu not to bring her daughter-in-law to the Gu family to cause trouble. Madame Wu and her daughter-in-law weren't the only ones who didn't have a good time these few days. Gu Dashun also suffered the first blow in his life. He finally knew who the dean's preferred candidate was. It was actually Xiao Liulang, whom he would never have expected even if he was beaten to death. Not only was Xiao Liulang disabled, he was also uneducated. Other than his face, there was almost nothing good about him. He just couldn't understand. How did this kind of bad student catch the director's eye? Gu Das-hun began to recall the change in the director's attitude towards him. At first, the director praised him more than once and even met him alone. But ever since Xiao Lulang went to look for the director no longer paid attention to him. He asked himself if there was anything about his talent that the director was dissatisfied with. Could it be that Xiao Lulang made up something in front of the director to make the director think that he was unethical and develop a dislike for him? It must be like that. Otherwise, why would the director give up on him and go for Xiao Lulang, who was always at the bottom of the list? Who would have thought that such a well-behaved person would be so sinister behind his back? Thinking about how Xiao Lulang snatched away what originally belonged to him, Gu Das-hun felt that Xiao Lulang was too despicable. Xiao Lulang, just you wait. That night Gu Jiao dreamed again. Unsurprisingly, she dreamed of Xiao Lulang again. Xiao Lulang just happened to finish copying the books in his hands, and took advantage of noon to send the books to the study room. Unexpectedly, there was a theft in the study room and Xiao Lulang was suspected. Actually, there was an eyewitness at the time, and it was Gu Das-hun. Gu Das-hun saw with his own eyes that Xiao Lulang left before the owner entered the study room. He also knew that Xiao Lulang had never entered the owner's room. However, Gu Das-hun refused to tell the truth and insisted that only Xiao Lulang went up to the second floor. Although this didn't directly prove that Xiao Lulang was the thief, it eliminated the other suspects. However, Xiao Lulang wasn't someone to be trifled with. He directly solved the case based on the footprints in the backyard. The incident should have ended there, but because of the investigation, a lot of effort was delayed. By the time Xiao Lulang returned to the village, there was a heavy snowfall. On the way, the mule cart skidded into a ditch and disfigured Xiao Liulang's face. The hideous scar followed Xiao Lulang for the rest of his life, and left an indelible shadow. Chapter 29. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that can't be found online will be available here. When Gu Jiao woke up the next day, she sat on the bed in a daze for a long time. This time, she wasn't in a daze about her dream, but about her husband's luck. What kind of rebellious young man was this? Was he so unlucky? And this time, it was his handsome face that was ruined. No, absolutely not. The whole thing was because of Gu Dashuan's interference. If he didn't give false testimony, Xiao Lulang wouldn't have delayed his return to the village in order to prove his innocence. In the end, he was caught in the heavy snow and had an accident, ruining his handsome face. When Gu Jiao and Xiao Lulang finished their breakfast, the sky was still dark. The old lady was still sleeping soundly in her room. Gu Jiao gently sent Xiao Lulang out. It will snow today, wear more. Gu Jiao gave him a robe. Xiao Lulang looked at the night sky full of stars. It didn't look like it would snow, but he still took the robe from her. Thank you. Gu Jiao sent him to the village entrance as usual. Xiao Lulang got on the ox cart, and Gu Jiao waited by the side with him. Only when Gu Xiaoshan came over in a daze with a bag of books did she turn around and leave. Gu Jiao knew that Xiao Lulang would go to the study room this afternoon. And she also knew that he would be framed, but she didn't remind him not to go. She remembered the details of Xiao Liulang's case clearly, so she knew where the thief went with the stolen goods. I've heated up the food in the pot. Eat it if you're hungry. There's also medicine. If you throw it away, oh no. Gu Jiao said to the old lady in the living room. Since the old lady wasn't really suffering from Alzheimer's, there was no need to watch over her. Anyway, she was no longer contagious, so she did not have to worry about harming anyone. As for others harming her, it didn't exist. The old lady curled her lips and snorted. Gu Jiao went out with the basket on her back. When she passed by the Gu family's mansion, she happened to bump into Gu Yue, who had come out to wash her face. Good morning, little sister Yue, she greeted. Gu Yue was influenced by her mother and Gu Erzhan, so she wasn't close to Gu Jiao. Seeing that Gu Jiao took the initiative to greet her, she didn't say anything and went back into the house. Who's talking? Mrs. Zhou asked from inside. Jiaonyang, Gu Yue whispered. Mrs. Zhou pushed the door open. Gu Jiao also greeted her. Good morning, Aunt. A morning. Mrs. Zhou boasted that she was the mother of a scholar, so she was more polite than Mrs. Lu. She looked at Gu Jiao, who was carrying the basket on her back, and smiled. Jiaonyang, where are you going so early? Gu Jiao said with a smile. I'm going to the mountains to pick some mountain products and sell them in town. Mrs. Zhou rolled her eyes and said with a smile. Are you selling mountain products for money? I heard that mountain products are poisonous. I know which ones aren't poisonous. My husband taught me. If she said that she knew the mountain products, no one would believe her. A few days ago, Mrs. Zhou and the other two came to Gu Jiao's house and made a scene. At that time, she saw the things in Gu Jiao's basket. There were melon seeds, candied fruits, brown sugar, and peanuts. How much money was that? This girl must have made a lot of money selling mountain products. Mrs. Zhou's eyes flashed and she said with a smile. Jiaonyang, can you bring Aunt with you? You can't pick so much by yourself, right? Aunt will help you. Okay. Gu Jiao generously agreed. Mrs. Zhou secretly laughed. A fool will always be a fool. It's easy to coax her. When I recognize all the mountain products, will she still have a chance to pick them? This kind of good thing, Mrs. Zhou won't ask Mrs. Lu to come with her. But Mrs. Lu heard it herself, so she came out with a basket. Second aunt, you also go. Okay. Gu Jiao smiled. Gu Jiao and her two aunts went to the mountains to pick mushrooms. In fact, she could pick some fungus and poisonous mushrooms and cheat them to sell them. But it will hurt innocent people. She was not that wicked. She took them to pick some common winter mushrooms, and filled their baskets and baskets with them before she went away, satisfied. Can this really be sold for money? Mrs. Lu asked skeptically. Second aunt, just come with me. It's easy to sell. Gu Jiao said. Madame Zhou wanted to go alone. That way, she would be in charge of how much she sold. She could deduct a lot. Unfortunately, Madame Lu also had the same idea. In the end, both of them went with Gu Jiao. Jiaonyang, this is not the way to the market. On the way, Mrs. Lu strangely asked Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao said. At this time, the market is about to close. Let's go to the market in the east of town. The price there is higher. When they heard that they can sell it for more money, the two of them stopped talking. When they passed by an alley, Gu Jiao suddenly said, I want to go to the toilet. First aunt, second aunt. Wait for me for a while. Go. Mrs. Zhou said. Mrs. Lu curled her lips and muttered. Lazy people shit and pee a lot. Gu Jiao walked through the alley and went to the back door of Huichun Hall. She opened the door and went inside. After a quarter of an hour, Gu Jiao came back. What took you so long? Mrs. Lu was dissatisfied. Gu Jiao faintly smiled. I ate something bad. Mrs. Zhou hurriedly said. Okay, Jiaonyang, where is the market? Let's go and sell the mountain goods. Otherwise, it won't be fresh. Okay. Gu Jiao smiled and nodded her head. Gu Jiao led the two of them to walk forward. Suddenly, a figure rushed out from the side of the alley. Gu Jiao didn't dodge and bumped into the person. The man was knocked to the ground. Gu Jiao took out her sickle and said, You dare to bump into me? The man was stunned. Miss, who was the one who bumped into who? Gu Jiao didn't care. She held the sickle and slashed at the man. The two of them quickly got entangled in a fight. The man's bag was knocked down by Gu Jiao, but he didn't have time to pick it up. Gu Jiao chased after him with her sickle for a few hundred meters. Mrs. Zhou and Mrs. Lu's hands itched to open the bag that fell on the ground. When they saw the shining silver inside, the two of them immediately became greedy. They didn't steal the silver, nor did they rob it. They picked it up on the streets. Since they picked it up, it was theirs. The two of them had a tacit understanding, and decided to pick it up and leave. They didn't want to leave a single one for the little fool. The two of them scrambled to snatch the treasures, and in order to see who could snatch more treasures, they even had a solid fight. At the academy, Xiao Lulang took the copied books to first-grade restaurant after eating. There were many study rooms in Qingchuan town, but this was the biggest one. Therefore, business was still very good even in the afternoon. Xiao Luolang's copied books were the best to sell. Everyone in the study room recognized him. An attendant greeted him politely. The shopkeeper isn't here. Can you go to the accounting room on the second floor and wait for a moment? Xiao Lulang was about to enter when a shop assistant suddenly walked in from outside. Is it young Master Xiao? Xiao Lulang turned around. Does young Master Xiao still remember me? The shop assistant asked with a smile. I remember. Xiao Lulang nodded. You're from Huichun Hall. What's the matter? The shop assistant said embarrassedly. It's like this. I gave you a few wrong sets of medicine last time. Shopkeeper Wang asked me to find young Master Xiao. I wonder if young Master Xiao is free now? Follow me to Huichun Hall to get the medicine. Generally speaking, if the wrong set of medicine was taken, it would be sent directly. However, Huichun Hall offered to treat Xiao Lulang for free. It sounded like an apology. There was nothing wrong with it. Xiao Lulang and the shop assistant left. Gu Das-hun, who was behind the bookshelf, withdrew his disgusted gaze. Xiao Lulang went to Huichun Hall to get the medicine and have his leg checked. The shop assistant personally sent him back to the academy. However, when the two of them got off the carriage, they heard the students outside the academy whispering. Did you hear? There was a theft in the study room. The thief is a new student of our academy's Heaven Class A. A new student of Class A? What's his name? Gudasan. Digression. Smile. JPG. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. Chapter 30. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found online are all available here. This time, Xiao Lulang did not even enter the study room before he was taken away by a waiter from Huichun Hall. After that, he went directly to Huichun Hall to get medicine. The entire Huichun Hall could testify, so naturally, no one doubted him. However, Gu Das-hun was different. Someone saw him go up to the second floor with their own eyes, and the room of the owner was also on the second floor. At that time, the owner happened to be out, so there was no one on the second floor except for Gu Das-hun. Those who had been to the study room knew that the second floor was for nobles other than the accounting room. It was not open to everyone. A poor student like Gu Das-hun should not be on the second floor. Gu Das-hun cried out. There was a master who asked me to pick a few books to send up to him. He said that he wanted to discuss poetry with me. Gu Das-hun was also an ambitious student. He knew early on that his status as a scholar would bring him a lot of convenience in the future. There would even be people who would come to befriend him, so he did not suspect anything at that time. Who is this master you are talking about? Call him out. The person in the study room said. Gu Das-hun said anxiously. When I went upstairs, he was already gone. Who among you has seen this master? The person in the study room asked the crowd. Everyone shook their heads. They only noticed Gu Das-hun because Gu Das-hun was wearing Tianxiang Academy's uniform. Students of Tianxiang Academy were very eye-catching no matter where they went. However, Gu Das-hun's conversation with that master happened on his way to the toilet. There were no witnesses on that part of the road. Therefore, everyone only saw Gu Das-hun going up to the second floor with books, but did not see Gu Das-hun being invited. This was really terrible. I didn't think that a student from Tianxiang Academy would do such a despicable thing. My family's young master's bag contains a very valuable item. If you take the banknotes, my family's young master won't argue with you, but you must return the letter. Otherwise, we'll report it to the authorities. Gu Das-hun had been wrongly accused. The only thing they could do now was to find that old master. However, it was as if the old master had vanished from the face of the earth. They could not find him no matter how hard they tried. Gu Das-hun suddenly had an idea. You said that I stole something, then where is the stolen goods? I'm not going to eat it. The head constable narrowed his eyes. Search his house. Gu Das-hun was not worried about being searched. He was not afraid of a crooked shadow. Even if he turned his house upside down, he would not find the stolen goods. In the end, Gu Das-hun was slapped in the face. When the bailiffs rushed into the Gu family's house, Madame Zhou and Madame Lu had just arrived home, and were digging a hole to bury the silver in the backyard. The bailiffs quickly recognized that these were the official silver that the owner had lost. In Gu Jiao's dream, Xiao Luleng judged that the murderer had climbed in through the window by looking at the footprints on the grass in the backyard and the outer wall. The murderer had committed the crime independently and was 6 feet tall. The right footprint was deeper than the left footprint. He speculated that the murderer's left foot had a slight limp, but it was not serious. Otherwise, he would not have been able to climb up the wall to the second floor. Moreover, the murderer had a certain level of skill. Some of the footprints at the crime scene contained a mixture of lime and sandalwood. This was the sandstone road that only casinos had, and was originally used to ward off evil spirits. Therefore, if the thief was not from the gambling house, then he was a gambler. Sooner or later, he would go to the gambling house near the market after taking the silver. Gu Jiao only needed to guard the road to the market. Unfortunately, Gu Dashun was not Xiao Luleng. He could not solve the case and prove his innocence. He could only watch as himself, Madame Zhou, and Madame Lu were arrested and sent to prison. Aya. Inside the Huichun Hall's accounting room, the second master was leisurely drinking tea. He seemed to be in a very good mood. Shopkeeper Wang glared at him and said, "You're so happy after harming someone?" That's right. The second master was the mysterious master who had tricked Gu Dashun into entering the second floor. The second master smiled and stretched out 3 fingers, not 1 but 3. Shopkeeper Wang shuddered. That girl's heart is really ruthless. She doesn't even blink when scheming against her own family. Shouldn't we be more careful when cooperating with this kind of person? The second master looked at the endless stream of people on the street. What do you know? If you haven't experienced other people's pain, don't easily persuade others to be kind. Shopkeeper Wang did not understand these words. Although he was the second master's subordinate, he did not know much about him. He only knew that he was the legitimate son of the Hu family, but he did not seem to be highly regarded by the old master. The second master smiled faintly and drank a mouthful of tea. I really like this girl more and more. Because this matter had nothing to do with Xiao Luleng, Xiao Luleng did not inquire too much about it. He only knew that Gu Dashun had stolen from someone. As for who he had stolen from and what he had stolen, he did not know. However, he did go to the study room, so the dean still called him to the Zhongzheng Hall to understand Gu Dashun's situation. When you went to the study room, did you see Gu Dashun? The dean asked. Xiao Luleng said, I saw him, but I left for the Huichun Hall at 4 in the afternoon. I don't know anything about what happened after that. This was the truth. The dean paused, then said, Then did you see Gu Dashun talking with anyone in the back courtyard? Xiao Luleng shook his head. I didn't go to the back courtyard. The dean had a headache and pressed the space between his eyebrows. Okay, I know. You can go back to the classroom first. Xiao Luleng turned to leave. Just as he reached the door, the dean spoke again. Do you think Gu Dashun would really steal? Xiao Luleng said faintly. It doesn't seem to be up to me to decide. Yes, the owner had reported it to the authorities and the Yamen had already filed a case. Whether it was a theft or not, it depended on evidence. However, all the evidence pointed to Gu Dashun. After Xiao Luleng left the Zhongzheng Hall, he was called over by Teacher Chen of Sky Class A for questioning. After Teacher Chen finished his questioning, Teacher Zhang from his own class also asked him about Gu Dashun's situation. After all this trouble, it was already late. Heavy snow began to fall. It really was snowing. Xiao Luleng looked at the snowy sky and walked towards the entrance of the academy. As soon as he came out, he saw a small, thin figure. She wore an apricot-colored floral jacket and carried a small basket on her back. Her head was lowered, and she was playing with the pebbles on the ground with her feet. She looked quite cute. Xiao Liulong's eyes moved slightly and he walked over with his walking stick. Gu Jiao saw him and smiled. School is over? Yes. Thinking of something, Gu Jiao said. I couldn't wait for you just now, so I asked Uncle Luo and Xiaoshen to go back first. It's okay, I'll go hire a car, Xiao Luleng said. Gu Jiao used her soft fingertips to gently pull on his sleeve. The snow is heavy, it's not safe to go by car. Let's find an inn to stay for the night. Xiao Luleng looked at the white fingertips on his sleeve. Oh, perhaps because it was almost the end of the year, the inns were all full. The two of them asked a few before they finally found an inn that they could stay in. Xiao Lulang said, "Give me 2 rooms." The waiter said, "Sir, there's only 1 room left." Chapter 31. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. When they heard that it was the last room, the two of them were stunned. The waiter looked at the two of them in confusion. "What are you two hesitating about? It's not that I want to say this, but it's almost the end of the year, and all the inn's business is quite good. In addition, there's suddenly heavy snow today. So many foreign businessmen are staying in our town. If you two continue to be picky, you won't be able to stay." They had asked along the way, so how could they not know that the room was in an emergency? But this seemed a bit inappropriate. Xiao Liulong's eyebrows showed a trace of hesitation. As for Gu Jiao, she didn't feel conflicted at all. They were legally married, so what if she was sleepy? Besides, it wasn't like she was rushing to sleep with him. There were no more rooms, right? However, she still cooperated and showed the same conflicted expression as him, which made her seem even more obedient. Xiao Lulang was also a person who could be persuaded by reason, but not cowed by force. She lowered her head like a harmless little rabbit, faintly revealing a trace of obedience. At this time, it was a bit unreasonable to drag her thin and weak body to find an inn in the snow. Xiao Lulang calmed down. "Then let's stay." The waiter led the two of them to a room on the 2nd floor. It was not without reason that it was the last room left. Not only was the room small, but it was also very cold. However, considering the heavy snow, the inn gave them a basin of charcoal for free. The room price was 200 copper coins. Usually it was 100 copper coins, but the price had increased during the new year. The waiter put down the charcoal and left. Before he left, he told them that they could eat dinner in the lobby, or they could have the room price delivered directly. Oh, there was even room service. Gu Jiao was quite surprised. However, Gu Jiao didn't eat at the inn. She opened the window and leaned on the windowsill, drooling at a small stall selling osmanthus cakes at the entrance of the small alley across the street. She realized that she had more or less changed from her previous life. For example, she didn't like sweet things or spicy food in her previous life, but she had become very fond of osmanthus cakes and pickled vegetables here. "Want to eat osmanthus cake?" Xiao Lulang was beside her and saw her drooling. Gu Jiao nodded. Yes. Actually, Gu Jiao was not that greedy. At least, she was not as greedy as Xiao Lulang thought. However, after spending some time with him, Gu Jiao realized that it was hard for him to refuse to be obedient. Xiao Lulang led Gu Jiao out of the inn. After covering them, Gu Jiao understood why they had to prepare 2 quilts. It wasn't because there were 2 of them, but because one quilt was too cold. Gu Jiao was too cold to sleep. Her hands and feet were cold. She listened to Xiao Liulong's breathing and knew that he wasn't asleep either. Gu Jiao wanted to call him, but she realized that she hadn't formally called him that yet. Of course, he hadn't called her that either. It was as if they didn't know what their relationship was. Husband and wife? No. Friends? Also no. Pal? No, this definitely wasn't it. In the end, Gu Jiao decided to reluctantly call him husband. Husband. It was her first time calling him that, so she wasn't used to it. Her voice was a little hoarse. Xiao Lulang didn't respond for a long time. He was probably shocked by her calling him husband. After a long time, he asked in a low voice, "What's the matter?" "Are you cold?" Gu Jiao asked. "Are you very cold?" Xiao Lulang asked back. Gu Jiao's voice was soft in the night, with a hint of nasal sound after being cold. Xiao Lulang hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he still took out half of his quilt and covered it with hers. Gu Jiao followed the principle of you share, I share you share. She also covered him with her quilt, and then their quilts were completely shared. The youth's body was boiling hot, like a small stove. Gu Jiao instantly felt much warmer. Xiao Lulang was a little startled. He seemed to be hesitating whether or not to kick this uninvited guest out of his quilt. "Husband, I'm not cold." The young girl's voice was soft, with a trace of naivety and satisfaction. Xiao Lulang couldn't kick anymore. Chapter 32. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Jiao had never shared a bed with anyone in her previous life, not even her female roommates. She thought that she wouldn't be able to fall asleep, but she soon fell asleep in that reassuring scent. She went to see Zhou Gong, but Xiao Lulang didn't fall asleep so quickly. He looked at Gu Jiao, who was lying beside him. The thin light of the snow shone through the window and fell on her face. She was lying on her side, and the birthmark on her face was pressed under her. She was probably really afraid of the cold. Her little face was red from the cold. Her eyelashes were very long, and her facial features were exquisite. If it weren't for the birthmark, she would be a beautiful and refined young lady. Inexplicably, Xiao Lulang felt a trace of regret. But soon he frowned again and erased this feeling from the bottom of his heart. Xiao Lulang slept very well. He didn't move at all the whole night. Gu Jiao was also quite obedient. Apart from getting closer and closer to Xiao Lulang and hugging Xiao Lulang with her arms and legs, and resting her little head on Xiao Liulang's shoulder, she really didn't do anything else. Gu Jiao slept until the sun rose. When she woke up, Xiao Lulang was already up and sitting by the window, reading a book. The sunlight shone through the window, reflecting his handsome face. She didn't know if it was Gu Jiao's imagination, but she felt that he seemed to be blushing a little. "You're awake," Xiao Lulang greeted Gu Jiao seriously, but his eyes didn't look at Gu Jiao on the bed. "And I'm awake. Good morning." Gu Jiao rubbed her eyes and yawned. She had just woken up and was still in a daze. She unconsciously spoke in a lazy and childish voice. Which normal man could stand this early in the morning? Xiao Lulang felt his chest swell, and he stood up almost immediately. "I'll go buy breakfast." Then he opened the door and went out, leaving Gu Jiao scratching her head in confusion. The snow stopped in the middle of the night, and the sun was especially bright today. Since it was a rest day in the academy, the two of them hired a mule cart to return to the village after breakfast. When they passed by the village entrance, they heard the villagers who were fetching water from the old well, talking about how it suddenly snowed yesterday. Quite a few people who were returning to the village at night fell and injured themselves. In the neighboring village, there was even a mule cart overturned into a ditch. I heard that some people fell and almost lost their lives. Xiao Lulang remembered that she wanted to hire a carriage to go back to the village last night. If she hadn't proposed to stay at the inn for the night, they might have also met with an accident. Xiao Lulang didn't know what to say at this moment. After all, this was already the third time that he had avoided a calamity because of her. The two of them went home. The old lady had woken up and was sitting in the central room sulking. Yesterday, Gu Jiao thought that things would end early, and that she and Xiao Lulang would be able to return before it snowed, so she only left lunch in the pot. Unexpectedly, the teachers of the academy were so troublesome that they pestered Xiao Lulang until the snow fell. In order to avoid the misfortune in the dream, she could only drag Xiao Lulang to stay in the town for the night. The old lady didn't know how to make a fire. Last night, she ate a cold steamed bun, and this morning, she ate another cold steamed bun. Her teeth were about to fall apart. Gu Jiao was puzzled. How could a poor old lady not know how to make a fire? Are you the old lady of a rich family, or the Empress Dowager? Gu Jiao silently took out a bag of candied fruit and a box of osmanthus cake. "I'll allow you to eat 2 more today." The old lady said, "No. 5. Gu Jiao said 3. The old lady said, "Deal." Holding the candied fruit and osmanthus cake, the old lady turned her back and began to eat. The news of Gu Dashun and Madame Zhou's arrest had already spread throughout the village. Even the neighboring villages had come to watch the show. For the time being, they didn't know what this matter had to do with Xiao Lulang and Gu Jiao, so they all went to the old Gu residence to inquire about the news. At noon, 2 bailiffs came to the door. They were looking for Gu Jiao. It turned out that after Madame Zhou and Madame Lu were taken to the yamen, they had honestly confessed the origin of the silver under strict interrogation. It had fallen from the person who had fought with the little fool. They had been greedy for it, so they took the silver back to the village before the little fool came back. Ah, so that's how it is. I was wondering why I didn't see the two ants when I went back. Gu Jiao said with a look of sudden realization. The bailiffs looked at him. Why did you fight? Gu Jiao said coldly, he hit me. He bullied me. He even scolded me. After being hit and scolded by someone, you chased them down a few streets with a sickle. Girl, you are a hero. If it was someone else who had done this, the bailiffs would have been suspicious. However, they had already learned from Madame Zhou and Madame Lu that Gu Jiao was a fool. A fool's behavior couldn't be judged by common sense. Therefore, even if they were here, no one would suspect that Gu Jiao had deliberately squatted there to wait for the thief. He had also deliberately chased the thief away and left the silver for Madame Zhou and Madame Lu to covet. Even Madame Zhou and Madame Lu thought that everything was just an accident. Only Xiao Lulang faintly felt that everything was too coincidental. That person could have been the thief. What happened to him in the end? The bailiffs asked. He ran away. Gu Jiao spread his hands. Do you still remember what he looked like? The bailiffs asked again. He looked Gu Jiao recalled and gestured. The other bailiffs was the Yaman's painter. He drew the thief's appearance. Is it like this? Well, Gu Jiao frowned. At this time, Xiao Lulang came out with a portrait. Gu Jiao's eyes lit up. Yes, it's this person. The bailiffs and the painter exchanged awkward glances. A dignified Yaman painter suddenly couldn't draw, as well as a student. It felt like his rice bowl had been smashed, right? After receiving the portrait, the Yaman quickly solved the case. However, Madame Zhou and Madame Lu were not immediately released by the Yaman. The reason was that when the Yaman's bailiffs came to the Gu family to ask them where the silver came from, they swore that they had sold the mountain goods. The amount was huge. In addition, they lied and refused to pay. It was a crime of embezzlement. Each of them was fined 20 taels of silver and beaten 30 times. As for Gu Das-hun, his mother and second aunt had done such a shameful thing. His family was not upright. He was also nailed to the pillar of shame. Chapter 33. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that can't be found online are all available here. The Gu family had suffered a great loss this time. Their 40 taels of silver were all forfeited. The image that Gu Das-hun had painstakingly built was also destroyed this time. For a long time, the Gu family wouldn't have the energy to find trouble with them. Gu Jiao was very happy and ate half a bowl more for dinner. There was some snow in the afternoon, but it wasn't heavy and stopped after a while. It didn't affect walking on the road, but it was a little cold. Xiao Liulang's hands were frozen by the time he reached home. Gu Jiao quickly handed him the ginger soup that she had cooked. Even if he was frozen, he drank the ginger soup at a moderate pace. It was a noble and elegant aura that came from his bones. Gu Jiao looked at him without blinking. What's wrong? He turned his head and asked. Gu Jiao, who was caught red-handed, wasn't embarrassed at all. She smiled and said, It's nothing. You drink, I'll go get the food. Gu Jiao brought out the hot dishes from the pot and called the old lady to eat together. Halfway through the meal, an uninvited guest came to the house. I'll go open the door. Gu Jiao put down her bowl and chopsticks. I'll do it. Xiao Lulang stood up before her with the help of his walking stick. Eat, the old lady said to Gu Jiao. Although the old lady knew that Xiao Lulang was her grandnephew and Gu Jiao was only her granddaughter-in-law, she never favored Xiao Lulang. Gu Jiao continued to eat. Xiao Lulang removed the bolt and opened the door. He found that the people standing at the door weren't villagers, but a young master and servant. The young master was dressed luxuriously and had a noble temperament. It was obvious that he was the master of a rich family. Xiao Lulang was a little surprised. Of course, they were also very surprised. They were here to look for Miss Gu. But they never expected that the person who opened the door would be a young man. The young man was dressed in the white uniform of the Tianxiang Academy. He had a clean and refined temperament. His facial features were exquisite and picturesque. In such a remote and desolate place, there was actually such an exquisite young man. The master and servant were both stunned. The young man asked, "May I ask, is this Miss Gu's house? Who are you? Why are you looking for my wife?" Xiao Lulang asked coldly. "My wife?" The young master was stunned again. "My surname is Qin. Little husband Qin?" Gu Jiao walked over at some point and looked at the young man outside the door strangely. "Why are you here?" When little husband Qin saw her, he was so scared that he almost turned around and ran away. "I should be the one asking you this. Why are you here?" Gu Jiao said, "This is my home. If I'm not here, then where would I be?" "Why are you in Gu?" Little Master Qin suddenly realized something before he could finish his sentence. He was flabbergasted. You are Miss Gu?" Gu Jiao raised an eyebrow and rubbed her chin. "So you still don't know who I am?" The previous host had pestered him for so long, but he didn't even ask about the previous host's identity. Xiao Yulong's face became cold. He coldly looked at little husband Qin, and then entered the room without looking back. Gu Jiao, AI. She strangely felt that her husband was angry. Little husband Qin finally realized that Xiao Yulong's legs were broken. He was wondering why such a handsome youth would marry a little fool who didn't follow the virtues of a wife. So he was a cripple. "Why have you come to my home?" Gu Jiao asked coldly. Little husband Qin then discovered another thing. The little fool's eyes didn't seem to have the fanaticism she used to have for him, and the little fool didn't seem to be a fool at all. "If you have something to say, say it. If not, take care. I won't see you out." Gu Jiao was going to close the door as she spoke. Little husband Qin came back to his senses and pressed the door. "I came to ask if you found a letter?" The silver in his bag had been taken by Madame Zhou and Madame Lu, but the letter was not. It had been thrown on the street. The bailiffs didn't find it, so they thought of the Gu family's girl who had returned to the scene. Perhaps she had found it. The bailiffs didn't say that the Gu family's girl was the little fool from Qingchuan village. Otherwise, little husband Qin wouldn't have come to find her. Hearing little husband Qin's words, Gu Jiao was shocked. To be honest, she hadn't expected the owner to be him. In her dream, she only cared about seeing Xiao Lulang. How could she remember what the owner looked like? However, she did pick up that letter. Gu Jiao turned into the room and took out the letter. She walked out of the door and asked him, "Are you talking about this?" Little husband Qin's eyes lit up. "You really did find it. But why didn't you tell the bailiffs?" Gu Jiao spread her hands. The bailiffs didn't ask. This was true. The bailiffs forgot. Here. Gu Jiao generously gave the letter to him. Little husband Qin hurriedly took the letter. The letter was sealed with wax and there was no trace of tampering. The surprise of finding what he had lost changed little husband Qin's view of her. Maybe she had done those stupid things before, because she wasn't smart. But her nature was not bad. She was a good girl who didn't keep the money she found. "Thank you so much," little husband Qin said sincerely. Gu Jiao glanced at him from the corner of her eyes and said casually, "Just a verbal thank you?" Little husband Qin was stunned. Gu Jiao smiled faintly. "Don't you want something more substantial, like silver?" Little husband Qin was petrified. Where was the girl who didn't keep the money she found? A quarter of an hour later, Gu Jiao came into the room with 100 taels of silver. This money was 3 times more than what Madame Zhou and Madame Lu had robbed. And little husband Qin was willing to give it. It was reasonable and legal. "Oh, where is my husband?" Gu Jiao looked at the old lady and asked. The old lady pouted her lips at Xiao Yulong's room. Gu Jiao pushed the door open and entered the room. Xiao Lulang was copying a book with a cold face. Gu Jiao took the money she had extorted. No, she took the money and gently put it on Xiao Yulong's table. Xiao Lulang didn't even look at it. Gu Jiao whispered, "Are you angry?" Xiao Lulang turned around and ignored Gu Jiao. His arrogant look made Gu Jiaming feel bad. Gu Jiao leaned over, bent down, and sighed softly in his ear. "Tell me, I'm so young. How can I be blind? He is so ugly. Xiao Liulong's eyelashes trembled slightly. They were so close that her breath fell on his earlobe. Gu Jiao whispered. I didn't know it was his letter. I just picked it up and forgot about it. He just came to me to get the letter, and I extorted 100 taels of silver from him. All the unhappiness in Xiao Liulong's heart disappeared in the last sentence. She even extorted little husband Qin. It seemed that she had really given up. In fact, he shouldn't be angry. They weren't a real couple. He would leave her and leave this place one day. He didn't care about her relationship with little husband Qin before, and he shouldn't care now. However, even he himself couldn't explain why he was so angry just now. Gu Jiao softly coaxed. Don't be angry. I won't look at him in the future. Look as you wish. Xiao Lulang coldly said. Gu Jiao smiled and whispered in Xiao Liulong's ear. He's not as good looking as you. Xiao Lulang. Chapter 34. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. With the money, Gu Jiao began to think about what to do. The next day, Xiao Lulang came back from school, and the family of 3 sat in the main room to eat. Although they were a family of 3, they didn't have any relationship with each other, but they were strangely harmonious. The old lady gnawed on a large chicken leg and glanced at Gu Jiao, saying, If you have something to say it. Gu Jiao. The old lady's eyes are very good. How did she know that she had something to say? I want to buy a mountain. Gu Jiao said. Winter clothes or autumn clothes? The old lady gave Gu Jiao a speechless look, as if she was complaining that such a small matter was worth wasting time on. I'm not talking about clothes, I'm talking about the mountain. The mountain behind our village. Gu Jiao always picked wood ears and mushrooms on the mountain, and found that there were a lot of good things there. If she bought it, she could pick mountain products, pick herbs, cut wood, and hunt. In short, the whole mountain was full of value. She would definitely not make a loss. Buy it. Unexpectedly, the old lady didn't hesitate at all. When it came to spending money, the old lady was very generous. If it was the original host's grandmother, Madame Wu, she would have jumped up and scolded Gu Jiao. Little star of death, you spendthrift woman. You even bought a mountain. The money is earned by being generous. In the eyes of most villagers, mountains weren't worth much. At most, they could cut some firewood and pick some wild vegetables. Although there were mountain products and game, no one would buy an entire mountain for these things. Firstly, Gu Jiao knew what was good for her. Secondly, she had the ability to deal with any danger deep in the mountains. Therefore, that mountain in her hands would be a huge treasure bowl. In the past, she would make her own decisions. Xiao Lulang never interfered with any of her decisions. However, ever since the old lady came, the way they interacted seemed to have changed subtly. Are you talking about the mountain behind second Uncle Luo's house? Xiao Lulang asked. Okay. Gu Jiao nodded. Clear Spring Village was surrounded by mountains on 3 sides. She had her eyes on the mountain in the middle, which was also the mountain that the villagers often went to. Second Uncle Luo's house was at the foot of the mountain. Alright, I'll ask Li Zheng later. Xiao Lulang did not hesitate. Gu Jiao scratched her little head. It was her grandfather in the room. She could go and ask him, but she didn't say it to make him busy. After dinner, Xiao Lulang went to the Gu family mansion. Madame Zhou and Madame Lu had been beaten 30 times by the yamen. For the past few days, they had been obediently lying in their room to recuperate. The house had become much quieter. Brother-in-law, why are you here? The one who opened the door was Gu Xiaoshan. I'm here to look for Li Zheng. Xiao Lulang said. Although he was married to Gu Jiao, he had always addressed the old man as Li Zheng. Oh, Gu Xiaoshan was only surprised that his brother-in-law had come to visit, but he was not surprised by how he addressed him. After all, the Gu family had forced his brother-in-law to get married first, and squeezed his hard-earned money. Every sum was a debt. Master, brother-in-law is here. Gu Xiaoshan led Xiao Lulang to Old Man Gu's house. Old Man Gu looked at Xiao Lulang with some surprise. If he remembered correctly, This was the first time Xiao Lulang had come to the Gu family mansion after his marriage with Gu Jiao. It's so late, what's the matter? Old man Gu asked. Xiao Lulang said indifferently. I came to ask Li Zheng, how much is the mountain behind second Uncle Luo's house? Why are you asking this? Does anyone from the academy want to buy a mountain? No matter how imaginative old man Gu was, he would never have thought that his own granddaughter wanted to buy a mountain. That mountain costs a lot of money. Moreover, it's not something that anyone can buy. That mountain is not managed by our village, nor by the county government. It's the land of the temple. Temple. Xiao Lulang frowned slightly. He didn't know that there was a temple here. Old man Gu said, That's right, it's a temple. You haven't been here for long, so you probably haven't been there yet. It's on the other side of the mountain. If you go around the foot of the mountain, you can reach it in about 2 hours. If anyone from the academy wants to buy a mountain, they have to go to the temple and talk to the abbot. Old man Gu thought of something and said, Speaking of which, Jiao Nyang was born in that temple. After Xiao Lulang returned home, Gu Jiao welcomed him and asked, How was it? What did the Gu family say? Xiao Lulang repeated old man Gu's words. It's the land of the temple. The original owner of the body had never been to the temple. No, according to old man Gu, she was born in the temple, so she had been there. Did they say how much it would cost? They didn't say exactly, but 100 taels might not be enough, Xiao Lulang said. Oh, then I still have some, Gu Jiao said as she took out a handful of silver pieces from her pocket and placed them on the table. The old lady stopped munching on the melon seeds. However, this wasn't the end. Gu Jiao took out another handful, and another, and another, and another. The old lady and Xiao Lulang were both stunned. There were at least 20 or 30 taels of silver pieces. Where did she get them? Xiao Lulang calmed himself down and asked, Did you earn all of this from selling mountain goods? Yes. Gu Jiao tried her best to widen her eyes, her face full of sincerity. I definitely didn't get them from fighting. Xiao Lulang. In ancient times, there weren't many holidays for studying. Other than the 10-day leave, the busy farming season, and the September clothing holiday, there were only annual holidays from the 12th lunar month to the 1st lunar month. In the past, annual holidays were in the first part of the 12th lunar month. This year, it was delayed to the second half of the lunar month. Because of the approaching annual holidays, there wouldn't be any 10-day leave for the next 2 weeks. Gu Jiao didn't want Xiao Lulang to ask for leave from the academy because of this, so she decided to go to the temple herself. Taking into account the previous lesson, Gu Jiao didn't leave the food in the pot for the old lady this time. Instead, she found Xuanningsiang and asked her to take care of the old lady. Your great-aunt. Her illness isn't serious. It's not contagious. That's not what I meant. How could Gu Jiao not know that Xuanningsiang helped her cover up her lie? Naturally, she also guessed that Xuanningsiang had guessed something. However, Xuanningsiang didn't report her, nor did she alienate her because of this. Xuanningsiang didn't ask Gu Jiao how she cured her leprosy. She only needed to believe in Gu Jiao. Chapter 35. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Jiao carried the basket to the other side of the mountain. The temple was halfway up the mountain, and it was very difficult to walk. There was a section of the road in the middle that had no steps and was covered in snow. Fortunately, Gu Jiao had been diligent in climbing and training since she came here, so she was not dissuaded by the dangerous mountain road. She walked faster than ordinary people, but she still walked for 2 hours. When she arrived at the temple, it was almost noon. The temple was not very big, and the words Ning'an Temple were written on the ancient and weathered plaque. She did not know if it was because there were not many people in the snow, but Gu Jiao did not meet a single pilgrim along the way. There were not many monks in the temple. Gu Jiao had been here for a while, but she did not see a single one. Could it be that this temple is already empty? But the ground was clean, as if someone took care of it every day. While thinking, Gu Jiao arrived at the Guanyin Hall. She stood behind the pillar and inadvertently glanced into the hall. Finally, she saw the first living person of the day. It was a madam dressed in silk. Although her clothes were luxurious, they were not ostentatious. A white cloak was draped over her body, reflecting the snow on the ground. From Gu Jiao's point of view, she could only see the other person's back, but she could feel the other person's gentle and elegant aura. She sincerely kowtowed a few times and put her palms together. May the Bodhisattva bless my son's safety and success. Even her voice was gentle and pleasant. Gu Jiao rarely paid attention to a stranger, especially a woman. She did not like women, right? But just as she was lost in her thoughts, a delicate voice suddenly came from the side. Where did this little thing come from? How dare you peek at my madam? Gu Jiao came back to her senses and looked in the direction of the shout. She saw a maidservant wearing a pea-green vest walking over from the opposite corridor. The target of the maidservant's scolding was not her, but several little monks who had appeared behind a pillar at some point. When the little monks saw that the beauties had been caught, they screamed and ran away in a panic. So there were monks, but they were such small monks. One of the children ran in the opposite direction and ran towards Gu Jiao. He bumped into Gu Jiao's leg and fell to the ground. Gu Jiao looked at the dumbfounded little dumpling and suddenly wanted to spit at him. But before she could reach out her hand, the little dumpling got up and ran away. The madam who was praying to the Bodhisattva in the hall walked out and said to the servant girl in green, "Lu-er, don't be rude." "Madam," the maidservant called Lu-er muttered as she walked forward. "If you don't teach these little guys a lesson, they'll take advantage of you later and run to your meditation room to make a scene. They're all children," the madam said. The servant girl pursed her lips, obviously disagreeing, but she did not continue to argue with the madam. Just when Gu Jiao thought that the two were going to leave, the madam suddenly looked in Gu Jiao's direction. Gu Jiao's figure was completely blocked by the pillar. Even the servant girl who was walking towards her did not notice her. She did not know how the madam had noticed her. "Who is it?" The servant girl immediately became alert. Gu Jiao could only walk out. She wore a shabby lavender floral jacket, maroon cotton trousers, and a pair of black cloth shoes that had long been soaked in snow. She also carried a small shabby basket on her back. However, she didn't know how to do a woman's hair, so she picked up her hair and tied it into a bun on top of her head. She was dressed like a poor country girl, not to mention the eye-catching red birthmark on her face. A trace of contempt appeared on the servant girl's face. There was no disdain in the madam's eyes. The snow had stopped, and the roof of the temple was covered in snow. The beautiful mountain was wrapped in silver, and the world was a white expanse of ice. However, all of this was not as good as her beauty. It was the first time Gu Jiao had seen such a beautiful woman. But the most beautiful thing was her temperament, gentle and elegant, quiet and dignified. "Miss, are you also here to pay respects to Guanyin Bodhisattva?" The madam smiled and asked Gu Jiao. Such a gentle voice, such a gentle smile. Gu Jiao paused, then said, "No, I'm here to find the abbot." The madam smiled warmly and said, "The abbot has come down the mountain." Before she could finish her sentence, another maidservant hurried over with a box of food. There was ice on the road that had not completely melted. Her foot slipped, and with a cry she fell forward. Not only did she fall, but the box in her hand also flew out. Seeing that it was about to hit the madam, Gu Jiao took a big step forward and blocked the box with her arm. The box fell apart in midair, and the soup and vegetables inside spilled out, splashing Gu Jiao all over. "Madam, are you okay?" Lu-er looked anxiously at her madam. The madam shook her head and said, "I'm fine." Then, she turned to look at Gu Jiao, her eyes filled with worry. "Miss, how are you?" Just now she was standing in front, and the flying box was about to hit her. If the little girl hadn't blocked it for her, her face would have been smashed. "It's nothing serious," Gu Jiao said. The weather was too cold, and the dishes were no longer hot. It was just that the soup stuck to her body, making her feel uncomfortable. The madam looked at her sorry state and felt guilty. She looked at the servant girl who fell on the ground and sighed. "Can't you walk properly?" The servant girl also fell heavily, and her knees were swollen. She endured the pain and got up feeling wronged. The road is too slippery. The madam also understood that she didn't do it on purpose, but she still hurt the girl, so she deliberately didn't go. She said to Gu Jiao, "It's my fault for not teaching her properly and dirtying the girl's clothes. Please come with me to the meditation room to change into clean clothes." Gu Jiao thought about it and didn't refuse. This madam was obviously a frequent visitor of this temple. There was actually a separate meditation room in the temple. The meditation room was at the end of the corridor, and it didn't look any different from the other meditation rooms. But the furnishings inside were very elegant and quiet, and it complemented her temperament. The two servant girls also entered the room together. The madam let the servant girl in green, named Lu'er, open the box. Lu'er was immediately unhappy. "Madam, these are all the young miss clothes. How could a wild girl from the countryside be worthy of wearing their young miss clothes?" The madam's gentleness lessened a little. "Go out and bring in another vegetarian meal. Remember to bring one for this girl." The servant girl felt the pressure from her master and bowed her head. "Yes." The madam personally picked out a set of clothes from the box and gave it to Gu Jiao. "These are my daughter's clothes. I don't know if they fit you, but they're better than wet clothes. Young miss, quickly change into them." Gu Jiao went behind the screen to change her clothes. She thought that they would be a little big, but unexpectedly they fit her. "They really suit you," the madam said with a smile. They were obviously her daughter's clothes, but this little girl looked brighter in them. "How old are you this year?" Gu Jiao replied, 14. The madam's eyes lit up. "You're the same age as my daughter. My daughter was born in this temple." "Gu Jiao, what a coincidence, so am I." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642826/710456229. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bika Go mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 36. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. The foreign pointed at the Kong bed beside her and gently smiled. "Sit down and talk." Gu Jiao sat down on the Kong bed. There was a small table between the two of them. On the small table were several exquisite pastries. The foreign pushed the pastries in front of her. "Are you hungry? Eat something first. The vegetarian meal will be here soon." After climbing the mountain for so long, Gu Jiao's stomach was indeed hungry. Gu Jiao picked a yellow flower-shaped pastry. Gu Jiao was very quiet. "Is it good?" the foreign asked her. Gu Jiao nodded. Seeing the foreign look at her with suspicion, she paused and then said, "It's better than Li Ji's." "What is Li Ji's?" the foreign asked. "The best pastry shop in town," Gu Jiao said. The foreign finally relaxed. Actually, these pastries were personally made by her. When she had nothing to do in the Fu, she would make pastries to pass the time. It was a pity that she had a son and a daughter. Her son was weak and sick, so he couldn't eat them. Her daughter was very healthy, but she didn't like to eat them. It made her wonder if the pastries she made were too bad. Gu Jiao's table manners were not faked. She really felt that the pastries were very delicious. The foreign found a sense of accomplishment from Gu Jiao. She couldn't help looking at Gu Jiao a few more times. Gu Jiao had a birthmark on her face. She had already noticed this before. What a good girl. It really was a pity. The foreign secretly felt pity. Then she noticed Gu Jiao's hands. It was a pair of hands that worked all year round. The palms were calloused, and the backs of the hands were crisscrossed with scars. The foreign thought of her daughter. She was glad that her daughter was born in the Marquis Fu, and didn't have to suffer the hardships of the common people. Otherwise, as a mother, she would be heartbroken. Gu Jiao sat in the madam's room for a while and ate the entire plate of chestnut cakes. At this moment, the abbot also returned to the temple. In the end, Gu Jiao did not forget her business. After saying goodbye to her wife, she went to the abbot's meditation room. The abbot was a little old. He had a white beard, but his spirit was very hale and hearty. It should be because he practiced martial arts all year round. Gu Jiao stated the purpose of her visit concisely. I wonder if abbot is willing to sell it? After he finished speaking, the abbot did not reply for a long time. She took a closer look and saw that the abbot was staring at her face without blinking. Gu Jiao wanted to ask if there was something on her face. Just as the words were about to come out of her mouth, she remembered that there was something on her face. Abbot, Gu Jiao reminded. Cough, cough, cough. The abbot regained his senses and cleared his throat. He sat up straight and said, You just said, you want to buy a mountain? Gu Jiao said, Yes. Abbot, how old are you this year? Wasn't this topic changed a little too quickly? Can't I buy a mountain when I'm young? Gu Jiao asked faintly. No. Ba, young benefactor, don't misunderstand. The abbot raised one hand and said, Junior brother Jing Xian, who is in charge of the temple's property, is out. He won't be back for 2 or 3 days. It would be better for benefactor to come back in a few days. That's good. I will find a day before the new year to come again. Gu Jiao finished speaking and got up to leave. The abbot's gaze followed her birthmark. Gu Jiao frowned. Abbot, although I don't care what others think of me, you are a monk. Isn't it a bit inappropriate to stare at other people's flaws? The abbot hurriedly apologized. This old monk was rude. Young benefactor, please don't take offense. After Gu Jiao left, the abbot still took a long time to regain his senses. A disciple came forward and asked, Abbot, what's wrong? I remembered something. The abbot said. What is it? The disciple asked. The abbot gave a long sigh and said, It was a matter from many years ago. That night, he drank too much and wanted to put the chastity sand on the newborn baby. In the end, his hand trembled, and he put it on the baby girl's face. When he woke up the next day, he remembered his foolish actions and hurriedly went to apologize to the marquise. In the end, he found that the child in the marquise's arms had a white and clean face. There was no trace of the chastity sand. Because he drank too much, he wasn't very sure about his memory. Since there was no mark on the baby's face, then he shouldn't have done it, right? After so many years, he had completely forgotten about that matter. But when he saw the little girl, the memories came back to him. He suspected that he really put the chastity sand on her face that night. No, he pointed at the marquise's daughter. That girl said she was a villager at the foot of the mountain. After Gu Jiao left the abbot's meditation room, she went to find the marquise. In the end, she was told that the other party had already gone down the mountain. These boxes of pastries were ordered by the marquise to give to young benefactor. Young benefactor, please accept them. The monk who cleaned the meditation room handed a large cloth bag to Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao weighed it in her hand and knew that the marquise had left all the pastries for her. Gu Jiao sighed softly. She still hadn't returned the clothes to her. The clothes that the marquise gave Gu Jiao were beautiful, but it wasn't suitable for walking on mountain roads. She estimated that it would sew after 2 steps. She couldn't blame the poor quality. After all, people who could afford to wear this kind of material didn't need to walk on their own. On the way back, Gu Jiao walked quickly. She was worried that the matriarch wouldn't get along with the people next door. After all, the matriarch had a bad temper and was picky. She was the type who didn't get along with others. Unexpectedly, when Gu Jiao entered the door, she was dumbfounded. What was going on? Why were there so many people? And all of them were women? Gu Jiao and Xiao Luleng didn't take the initiative to interact with the villagers. In the past, only those who wanted to write faith letters would come to their house. The highest record was 3 letters a day, no more than that. So Gu Jiao didn't understand why their family's central room was suddenly crowded. The matriarch sat on the chair at the top with a mighty and domineering aura. Second Uncle Luo's wife, Second Aunt Luo, was holding a pot of tea and respectfully standing beside her. On the other side was Aunt Zhang's daughter-in-law, Guifeng. Guifeng was holding a tray with melon seeds and a teacup on it. Gu Jiao was even more puzzled. Didn't Sister Guifeng just finish her confinement? The rest of the people didn't seem to have the qualifications to get close to her, so they stood on the opposite side. You squeeze me, I squeeze you. It was like a village version of a palace drama. Okay, you can all go back. The matriarch put down the melon seeds and waved her hand. Everyone retreated. Before they left, they all saluted the matriarch in a mess. The imperial concubines saluting was pleasing to the eye, but a group of village women wearing headscarves saluting was simply a scene of a large-scale car accident. Gu Jiao was shocked. She grabbed Xuanningxiang next to her and asked, "What did my matriarch do again?" Xuanningxiang couldn't hide her admiration and said, "Great Aunt was telling the villagers about the play. She said it so beautifully." Gu Jiao's mouth twitched. What's with saluting? Xuanningxiang thought for a while before she understood what Gu Jiao was referring to. Oh, you mean this? Great Aunt taught her. She said that the people in the theater were all like this. The people in the theater weren't like this. The matriarch was blatantly tricking everyone into saluting her. Gu Jiao was puzzled. Where did this matriarch come from? Was she so good at causing trouble? Digression. Small theater 1 matriarch. Setting rules. I'm a professional. Asterisk small theater 2 Jiao Jiao. You might not believe it, but you're my medicine. Lulang. The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/710062225. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 37. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. The ancients loved to listen to opera. After all, other than that, they couldn't do much else, especially women. It was very difficult to listen to opera in the countryside. The nearest opera house was in the town, and one had to pay a lot of money to enter. People in the countryside couldn't afford to listen to it. Although the old lady didn't know how to sing, she could speak in detail. Where did you listen to the opera? Gu Jiao went over and asked. I don't remember. The old lady shook her head. Gu Jiao saw that she didn't look like she was lying, so she asked, Then do you remember anything else? The old lady thought seriously for a moment. No. Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao said again. Then can you stop fooling people like this in the future? The old lady thought seriously again. I can't. Gu Jiao. With the end of the year approaching, Gu Jiao became busy and didn't have time to keep an eye on the old lady. The old lady occasionally caused trouble, but she could handle it herself and didn't cause trouble for Gu Jiao and Xiao Lulang. After that, Gu Jiao went to the temple again. The master in charge of the treasury hadn't returned yet, so Gu Jiao decided to come again after the new year. Before the new year, the academy held another exam. Perhaps it was because of the theft incident, but Gu Dashuan's performance was obviously much weaker this time, and he fell to 10th place in the class. Gu Xiaoshuan's results were very stable, and he was still in the last place. Xiao Lulang rose by 1 place, but this time, it wasn't because he did well in the exam, but because the original second from last and fourth from last had asked for leave due to illness. They were tied with Gu Xiaoshan in the last place. Many teachers of the academy knew that Xiao Lulang had written an 8-legged essay when he was admitted to the academy. But since then, he had never written another essay and basically handed in a blank paper. Some people suspected that Xiao Lulang had run out of ideas. while others suspected that he had cheated his way into the school. However, Deanly had always firmly believed that Xiao Lulang was talented. No matter what others said, he did not want to give up on Xiao Lulang. The imperial examination was held once every 3 years, and it just so happened that the autumn examination would be held next year. If he missed it, he would have to wait another 3 years. The examinees who wanted to participate in the fall quarter examinations had to first pass the county examination and become an elementary scholar. The county examination was held once every 3 months during the new year. Deanly hesitated for a moment before signing up Xiao Lulang for the examination. Gu Jiao was still unaware of all this. The academy was on annual leave. Tomorrow was the day of Xiao Liulang's operation. She had to get enough sleep and adjust herself to the best state. In fact, she had done this kind of operation many times in her previous life. Logically speaking, there was no need for her to have any psychological burden. However, operating on a stranger was different from operating on Xiao Lulang. He was such a perfect child. She could not leave any regrets in him. Before going to bed, Gu Jiao checked the small medicine box. As expected, the anesthetics and injections needed for the operation had all appeared. These drugs were not the ones sold in the pharmacies in her previous life. They were all drugs from the research institute. Gu Jiao seriously suspected that as long as the research institute did not close down, her medicine box would continue to be supplied. Yes, this was a good thing. Gu Jiao slept soundly. When she woke up, she made breakfast and boiled the medicine for the old lady. When Gu Jiao brought the medicine to the old lady's room, the old lady looked at the pills on the plate, and then looked at the medicine in the bowl. She frowned and said, "Why do I feel that this medicine can be drunk or not?" "You're thinking too much. The medicine is just as important as the pills," Gu Jiao said without changing her expression. The old lady doubtfully drank the pills and medicine. It was so bitter that she rolled her eyes. She seriously suspected that Gu Jiao was here to take revenge on her. Gu Jiao still entrusted the old lady to Xuaningxiang. Afterwards, she and Xiao Lulang took second Uncle Luo's ox cart to the research institute. Feng Lin naturally would not miss such an important day. He had been waiting at the research institute for a long time. However, the weather was getting colder. He did not want to sit inside and wait, so he stood outside and froze into a small popsicle. When Feng Lin saw the young couple on the ox cart, his face sank. He had the urge to scold this adulterous couple. However, he suppressed it. Brother Xiao was not wrong. It was this woman who was getting more and more shameless. She was always sticking to Brother Xiao. Gu Jiao saw Feng Lin with a calm expression. "You didn't go back to celebrate the new year?" Feng Lin snorted. "My home is so far away. How can I go back?" Gu Jiao remembered that transportation was inconvenient in ancient times. In her previous life, the distance that could be reached in a day by high-speed rail would take a month here. Feng Lin might not even reach home before the New Year's holiday was over. Gu Jiao. Oh. Feng Lin, who had punched cotton. The date was set in advance. Shopkeeper Wang and the old doctor were waiting in the research institute at dawn. Feng Lin and Gu Jiao followed them inside. The old doctor first asked about Xiao Liulang's condition in the past few days. "Every night before I go to sleep, there's the medicine," Xiao Lulang answered honestly. Every night when he came home from school, Gu Jiao would have already prepared his meals and decocted his medicine. The old doctor nodded. Feng Lin said, "Dr. Zhang, is Brother Zhao's leg going to recover soon?" The old doctor said, "We'll know after the surgery." "What did you say? Surgery?" Feng Lin was stunned. Xiao Liulang's eyes flashed with a hint of astonishment. Gu Jiao was worried that this would happen, so she did not tell them. In this era, surgeries were not common, and people did not accept it. Most people thought that it was only useful on the battlefield. Feng Lin said in shock, "Dr. Zhang, you didn't tell me before." Of course, the old doctor would not tell the truth. He said seriously, "That's because the conditions didn't allow it. Now that the medicine has been used for a while, the meridians have opened up, and we can perform the surgery." However, this was a serious matter. Feng Lin was very hesitant. "Other than surgery, is there no other way?" "Yes. The old doctor nodded. Will it succeed? Feng Lin asked again. I can't guarantee this. The old doctor touched his conscience and answered. If it succeeds, he will be able to walk normally. If it fails, he might be in a worse condition. This was also Gu Jiao's original words. Even if she was the best doctor in the research institute, she did not dare to say that there was no risk at all. Brother Xiao. Feng Lin wanted to back out. He was a conservative and did not want to take such a big risk. Xiao Lulang moved his lips slightly and said casually. Then let's perform the surgery. Sorry to trouble you, Dr. Zhang. He agreed so quickly that even Gu Jiao looked at him. In fact, even though they had known each other for so long, Gu Jiao had never really understood him. However, at that moment, she felt a cold indifference from him. It was as if he did not care that the surgery might fail. Was he really brave, or did he not care about his own life at all? Digression Jiao Jiao. You don't care, I care for you. Asterisk after half a year, the little girl at home was not feeling well again. This time, the local hospital had no choice but to come to Wuhan. The doctors in different departments gave different diagnoses. The neurologist said it was a psychological problem and asked her to stay in the hospital for suggestion treatment. The orthopedist said it was a subluxation of the atlantoaxial joint and asked her to go home for traction and a neck brace. The little girl had her own ideas. I don't want to stay in the hospital. I don't want a neck brace either. I said. Okay, then let's think about it at length. In the end, she was in so much pain that she could not eat at the hotel that night. She obediently put on the neck brace and went to the hospital. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that you can't find online. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_826/70962512. HTML Genius memorized the website address. www.zhhbqg.com. Bika Go mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 38. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet are all available here. Feng Lin winked at Gu Jiao, hoping that she could persuade Brother Xiao. Gu Jiao pretended not to see it, making Feng Lin furious. Before the operation, the old doctor handed over a strange document. Xiao Lulang paused slightly. What is this? He asked. The old doctor coughed softly and said, the operation consent form requires the signature of the family member. It was very confusing. He had been a doctor for decades, but he had never heard of such a thing before. However, since it was Miss Gu's strong request, they could only comply. Feng Lin couldn't sign it, and Xiao Lulang couldn't sign it either. Dr. Gu finally wanted to experience the addiction of being a family member, but sadly found that she didn't know how to write her own name. It was so sad, wasn't it? When he asked the second boss to draft the operation consent form, he didn't consider this problem at all. If he used the doctor's style in his previous life to sign Gu Jiao's name, wouldn't it be mistaken as scribbling? He was most afraid of the sudden silence. Gu Jiao grabbed the pen and scratched her ears and cheeks. She was so anxious that her small face turned red. She wanted to show off in front of Xiao Lulang. But now it was all over. Xiao Lulang glanced at Gu Jiao. She grabbed the pen so smoothly that he thought she knew how to write. In the end, Xiao Lulang signed Gu Jiao's name on her behalf. Xiao Lulang was brought to a special room. Using calming decoctions again and again could easily expose him. This time, the old doctor directly handed him a bowl of mefizin. Mefizin was an ancient anesthetic. It was said that it was created by the divine Dr. Huatua. However, the real formula for mefizin had been lost. Nowadays, most of the mefizin that doctors use was made from datura flower powder or liquid. This kind of drug can cause people to be anesthetized and calm at the same time, cause the muscles to relax and the secretion of sweat glands to be suppressed. So it is also called a knockout drug. The knockout drug was quite toxic. Of course, Gu Jiao wouldn't use it on Xiao Lulang. What was in the bowl was actually the tranquilizer from Huichun Hall. Xiao Lulang fell into a deep sleep not long after drinking it. Gu Jiao finds an excuse to leave Feng Lin. This time, it will take longer than last time. Gu Jiao does not say that she needs to go to the toilet. Instead, she wants to walk around the streets to see if there is anything she can buy. Feng Lin was so angry that his liver hurt. It was fine if he didn't stop Brother Xiao just now. But now that Brother Xiao was about to be stabbed, she still had the mood to look at New Year's goods. She was indeed a heartless woman. Gu Jiao returned to Huichun Hall from the back door. The old doctor was already waiting at the door of the side room. The old doctor is a veteran of Huichun Hall. He has worked here for no less than 30 years. Although his medical skills are not as good as Dr. Zhang in the capital, his morals are definitely worthy of being called the conscience of the industry. Otherwise, the second master would not be at ease to let him participate in this matter. The old doctor is very curious about this operation and wants to follow Gu Jiao inside. However, Gu Jiao seems to have no intention of taking him back. After entering the room, she closed the door. The old doctor. Gu Jiao feels that the old doctor did not have it easy. Later, she will give him a few prescriptions as thanks. As for the secret of the medicine box, she does not intend to let others know for the time being. Gu Jiao opens the medicine box and gives Xiao Lulang a shot of local anesthesia. 2 hours later, Gu Jiao comes out with a small basket on her back. The old doctor and the second master quickly come up and ask in unison, "How was the operation?" Gu Jiao nodded and said, "The operation was very successful." There was no problem with her operation at all, but the specific recovery process differed from person to person. Also, his ankle had been injured for too long. Even if the operation was successful, he would still need to do a long period of rehabilitation for both his legs and feet. But at least if the operation was successful, he will not be in pain anymore. Thinking about how he has been in pain for so many days and nights, and how he always fetches water and firewood to do work that is within his ability, Gu Jiao feels a little uncomfortable. If she knew that he was in so much pain, she would not have cared about his self-esteem and let him do any work. When Xiao Lulang woke up, the old doctor is still by his side. The old doctor told him about his condition. The operation was very successful, and asked him to go home to recuperate and come back in 10 days. Remember, in these 10 days you must not exert yourself. Stay in bed and rest more. Don't eat spicy food and avoid alcohol. Xiao Lulang suddenly said in confusion, and looked at the old doctor in a daze. The old doctor thought that he did not understand, so he smiled and said, "When I ask you to avoid alcohol, I mean don't drink, understand? You are so young. Even if you are not sick, you must not drink." Xiao Lulang lowered his eyes and said, After the old doctor gave his instructions, he asked the staff to go to the lobby to call Feng Lin and Gu Jiao. Feng Lin rushed into the room and the first thing he said was, "Brother Xiao, are you still alive?" Gu Jiao, who was behind him, rolled her eyes. Feng Lin came to the bedside and wanted to see Xiao Liulang's injury, but it was already bandaged. He could only see layers of gauze. "Does it hurt?" Feng Lin asked. The anesthetic had worn off, so it was a little painful. But after so long he was used to the pain, so he shook his head and said, "It doesn't hurt." When he was still unconscious, the old doctor had already gone to the lobby to tell Feng Lin about his condition. Feng Lin knew that the operation was successful, so he was not particularly worried. But he suddenly thought of something, so he turned his head and fiercely glared at Gu Jiao. "You weren't here just now, so you didn't hear what Dr. Zhang said. I'll tell you again. You'd better remember this." He repeated the old doctor's instructions to Gu Jiao without missing a word. Gu Jiao listened very seriously. The old doctor on the side wiped away his cold sweat. "Kid, you don't know who told you these things, right?" When they left Tongren Medicine Hall, it was already late. Second Uncle Luo helped Feng Lin help Xiao Lulang onto the ox cart. Then, Second Uncle Luo sent Feng Lin back to the academy, and then took Xiao Lulang and Gu Jiao back to the village. Halfway there, Gu Jiao and Xiao Liulang's stomachs growled at the same time. The two of them came out after breakfast, but they were busy for most of the day and forgot about lunch. The sky was gloomy, and it looked like it was going to snow. Gu Jiao thought about it, and said to Xiao Lulang, "It's going to snow soon, so we won't eat outside. I'll go buy some scallion pancakes to fill our stomachs." There happened to be a stall selling scallion pancakes nearby, so Xiao Lulang nodded, "Okay." The place that sold scallion pancakes was just around the corner when they passed by. Gu Jiao lightly jumped off the ox cart and strode towards her destination. Perhaps because she was walking too fast, she was bumped into by someone. In all honesty, this time it was not her who deliberately bumped into someone, but someone else who deliberately bumped into her. Gu Jiao was not really a doctor in her previous life, so how could this kind of insignificant trick her? The person who took advantage of her was not even born yet. After that person bumped into Gu Jiao, he plunged into the crowd. Gu Jiao sneered. She looked at the ground and stomped on it with the tip of her foot. A stone flew up and was kicked by the tip of her foot. It hit that person's head squarely. "Ah!" That person screamed and fell to the ground. Then he turned around and saw Gu Jiao, who was like a little killing god behind the crowd. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that you can't find on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896428226/7092058 HTML Genius remembered this site's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 39. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. Perhaps it was because her gaze was too penetrating. Through the sea of people, it was like a knife stabbing into the little thief's eyes. The little thief almost instinctively felt the danger. He got up and ran. A thief that escaped from Gu Jiao's hands. There had never been one before. Gu Jiao chased after him and entered an alley. The little thief used all his strength to escape, but Gu Jiao was still getting closer and closer. In his panic, he seemed to have chosen a dead end. There was no road ahead. The little thief panicked. His blood and chi surged as he pulled out the dagger hidden in his sleeve. "Don't come over, or I'll kill you," he roared with anger. Gu Jiao didn't even lift her eyelids. She kicked the wall with one leg and used the force to leap up. With lightning speed, she kicked the thief's dagger with her other leg and sent it flying away. The little thief's eyes widened. In the next second, Gu Jiao's hand fell and kicked him in the chest. He didn't even have time to scream as he fell to the ground. Gu Jiao coldly walked over and used her foot to push him away. She picked up the pouch that fell out of his sleeve. Xiao Lulang was still waiting on the ox cart. Gu Jiao didn't have time to waste with him. She also didn't plan on calling the authorities. She prepared to leave. Unexpectedly, as soon as she turned around, the little thief quietly picked up the dagger on the ground. But before he could make a move, Gu Jiao stepped on his wrist and broke the bones in his hand. "Ah!" The little thief cried out again. He didn't understand how she did it. She didn't even turn around to look. Did she have eyes on the back of her head? "Catch him!" Several men dressed as guards suddenly appeared in front of the alley. They quickly glanced at Gu Jiao and didn't pay her any attention as they ran towards the little thief. "Did you find it?" At this moment, a young master followed them, panting heavily. Perhaps it was because he had run too fast and exhausted his energy, but he couldn't run anymore. He leaned against the wall and gasped for breath. Gu Jiao brushed past him. He suddenly spoke. "Miss Gu?" Gu Jiao stopped and looked at him. Young Master Qin? Was the town so small? How could he run into him while catching a thief? On the other side, the group of guards who had held down the thief returned. One of them held a scroll in his hand. He presented it to young Master Qin and said, "Young Master, we found it." "So fast. Didn't they say that it's hard to catch a thief?" Young Master Qin took the scroll. The guard glanced at Gu Jiao and said, "It was this lady who caught him." After what had happened last time, young Master Qin's impression of Gu Jiao had changed. Even though Gu Jiao had extorted 100 taels of silver from him, he could accept her greed more than being pestered by her. "Thank you again this time," young Master Qin said politely. Gu Jiao glanced at him. "Why do you always have things stolen from you?" Young Master Qin said embarrassedly. "The news must have been leaked and I was targeted by the enemy." He didn't say what the news was and Gu Jiao didn't ask. Gu Jiao just wanted to find her purse. Everything else had nothing to do with her. She didn't pay attention to young Master Qin and left expressionlessly, looking at her back without any hesitation. Young Master Qin frowned in confusion. Was she really not interested in him anymore? "Young Master." Another guard ran over. "I found a handkerchief on the ground. I don't know if it belongs to the lady just now." Young Master Qin quickly grabbed the handkerchief and chased in the direction Gu Jiao had left. When he caught up with Gu Jiao had already bought the scallion pancakes and returned to the ox cart. Miss Gu. Young Master Qin was a scholar who lived like a prince. Chasing the thief had drained him of his strength. This time, he had persevered with his willpower. He supported himself on the ox cart and was out of breath. He couldn't speak for a long time. Xiao Liulang's eyes became cold. Gu Jiao spread her hands. She looked like she didn't know him. It had nothing to do with her. "What's the matter?" Xiao Liulang asked lightly. Young Master Qin was taken aback when he heard this. He stared at Xiao Liulang and an embarrassed look surfaced on his face. "Ah, young Master Xiao is also here." Xiao Liulang thought. "So you chased after me when I wasn't here?" Young Master Qin handed over the handkerchief in his hand. "Miss Gu, you dropped your handkerchief." Gu Jiao looked at it and said, "It's not mine." "Ah." Young Master Qin was even more embarrassed. He had chased after her all the way, but it wasn't hers. Why did he feel a little embarrassed? Young Master Qin was anxious. He leaned over, and the painting fell from his arms. It happened to hit the ox cart and spread out at Xiao Liulang's feet. It was a painting of Jiangnan's misty rain. There were mountains, rivers, and black awning boats in the rain. Even though Gu Jiao didn't know much about calligraphy and painting, she felt that the painting was full of ink and the mood was profound. It was not easy to get this painting. His father had told him to take good care of it and not let anyone see it. Now that the painting was suddenly exposed, young Master Qin was very nervous. However, when he saw Gu Jiao staring at the painting curiously, he was not in a hurry to put it away. He said proudly, "This is the calligraphy of the young Duke of Zhaodu. It's called the Spring Mountain Misty Rain painting. It was painted by the young Duke when he was 12 years old." The young Duke's painting is hard to find. I spent a lot of money to buy it from an acquaintance. Gu Jiao picked up the painting and opened her eyes wide. He can paint so well at the age of 12. Her startled look was cute. Even the red birthmark on her face was not ugly in young Master Qin's eyes. Young Master Qin said proudly, "This is just a casual painting." It said that he was not satisfied with it and threw it away. It was secretly kept by the servants. "If you like it, I'll let you look at it more." Gu Jiao. Xiao Liulang's eyes swept over the painting lightly. Then he said lightly, "It's a fake." Young Master Qin was stunned for a moment before he realized that he was talking about the painting. He immediately jumped up and said, "Nonsense. My painting is obviously authentic. How can it be a fake?" Xiao Liulang said, "It's a fake." Young Master Qin raised his voice. "How can you tell it's a fake?" Xiao Liulang seemed to think it was unnecessary to give him a look. "How can you not tell it's a fake?" These words were too arrogant. He was saying that the painting was fake, and that it was terrible to look at. There were flaws everywhere. Young Master Qin finally couldn't help but explode. What do you know? You're just a poor scholar. Do you know how to paint? I had it appraised by a specialist. This is the young duke's authentic painting. He hasn't painted this painting, Xiao Lulang said calmly. How do you know he hasn't painted it? Do you know him? When he said this, young Master Qin laughed. How could a little cripple from the countryside know the famous young Duke of Zhaodu? There were many marquises in the capital of the kingdom of Zhao. There were also many sons of marquises. They were all young marquises, but there was only one who could be called the young Duke of Zhaodu. The young Duke of Zhaodu was the only son of Marquis Xianping. His birth mother was the Princess of Xinyang. He was deeply loved by the emperor. When he was 3 years old, he went to the throne room and fought a group of scholars. He became famous in one battle. When he was 4 years old, he entered the Imperial College. When he was 5 years old, he read the book Hall and was proficient in the 6 languages. Principal Li of Tianxiang Academy was ranked first among the 4 great scholars in the capital. This was because one had to be at least 18 years old to enter the Imperial College. Principal Li's results in the Imperial College had never been surpassed because the young duke had never participated in the Imperial College. When he was 12 years old, the emperor appointed him as the Imperial College's chancellor. The envoys of the 5 countries had all come to congratulate the young chancellor. He was truly a magnificent person. But the heavens didn't let him. Although the young duke had an unparalleled background and talent, he died in a fire at the Imperial College. It was said that he was burned alive. He died on New Year's Eve at the age of 14. Digression. Yesterday in Chapter 38, Success, the old doctor and Xiao Liulang's conversation. You can taste it carefully. The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found on the internet are all here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/70888220. HTML Genius. Remember this site's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 40. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found online here. Xiao Lulang didn't remind him, because he had a good relationship with him. Since he didn't believe it, then forget it. Gu Jiao originally admired the painting, but when she heard that it was a fake, she immediately lost interest and returned the painting to young Master Qin. Young Master Qin looked at her disdainful face and suddenly explained, "Don't listen to him. This painting is an authentic one." Gu Jiao said firmly, "If my husband says it's fake, then it's fake." Young Master Qin was really angry. If it was in the past, he wouldn't care what a clown thought of his painting. But today, he didn't want to lose face in front of her. Young Master Qin straightened his back. It's real. He hasn't seen the world and doesn't understand painting. You're the one who hasn't seen the world. Gu Jiao wouldn't allow anyone to belittle her child like this. Last time, when young Master Qin came to Gu Jiao to get the letter, Xiao Lulang only heard the result afterwards. But now he truly understood Gu Jiao's indifference to young Master Qin. She actually quarreled with him because of him. Xiao Lulang looked deeply at Gu Jiao and suddenly generously reminded young Master Qin, "If you give this painting away as a gift, I advise you not to make a fool of yourself." Then, Xiao Lulang said to second Uncle Luo, "Let's go back to the village, second Uncle Luo." Okay. Second Uncle Luo didn't want to get involved in young people's business. He smiled and drove the ox cart away. Young Master Qin looked at the backs of the 2 people eating scallion pancakes in the cold wind. He was so angry that he wanted to curse them. However, this matter left a thorn in his heart. When he took the painting back to the Qin family, his father couldn't wait to greet him. "How was it? Did you get the painting back?" We did find her. Young Master Qin wanted to say something but stopped. His father panicked. What happened? It's not broken, is it? It's not bad, Sai. In the end, young Master Qin told his father what Xiao Lulang said. His father's attitude was even tougher than his. You believe the words of a little cripple? He is a student of the Heavenly Fragrance Academy. When young Master Qin went to find Gu Jiao to get the letter, he saw Xiao Lulang. At that time, Xiao Lulang was wearing the uniform of Tianxiang Academy. So what if he's a student of Tianxiang Academy? His father asked disdainfully. They are all very powerful. Young Master Qin said. His father said nonchalantly, Aren't you very powerful too? I spent so much money to hire a teacher from the capital for you. How did you lose to them? What's more, they're all bookworms. How could they have seen the world? Young Master Qin thought to himself. I thought that was what Shiyi said. Young Master Qin was actually a very proud person. If someone else had reminded him like this, he wouldn't have listened to half a word. However, Xiao Liulang's gaze and aura at that time were inexplicably convincing. In the end, young Master Qin wasn't able to convince his father. He watched as his father wrapped up the painting and sent it to the nobles in the capital. It snowed heavily for 3 days. The roads in the village were all blocked, and the ox carts couldn't move. Many people in the village wanted to go to the market to do some business before the new year. But because of the heavy snow, they could only helplessly put it on hold. These days, everyone was cooped up at home. No one came to the matriarch to watch the opera. The matriarch was bored to death, so she had Gu Jiao call Xuanningsiang over. The matriarch didn't know that Xuanningsiang and Gu Jiao had disagreements in the past. When she came over, the relationship between the two had already improved. Moreover, ever since Xuanningsiang encountered a lecher, she avoided men like the plague. She didn't have any good feelings towards Xiao Lulang. On the other hand, Gu Jiao was always clingy. This made the matriarch wonder if this young widow had taken a fancy to her granddaughter-in-law. However, Xuanningsiang's needlework was done well, and her hair was combed well. Thus, the matriarch liked her very much. Before the new year, the brother-in-law at the border sent a letter to the family. Xuanningsiang couldn't read, so she took it to Gu Jiao. Of course Gu Jiao can't read. But what gave you the illusion that I can read all of a sudden? You actually brought the letter for me to read to you? Gu Jiao was at her wit's end. Xuanningsiang saw Gu Jiao frowning and said in a panic. You're not stupid anymore. I thought you could read too. Gu Jiao. Since when did not being stupid equate to being literate? However, Xuanningsiang didn't want to trouble Xiao Lulang. First, the shadow in her heart hadn't completely disappeared. Second, she knew that she was wrong in the past. So now she wanted to avoid suspicion with Xiao Lulang. Xuanningsiang lowered her head and didn't know what to do. Gu Jiao scratched her head gloomily. She was also someone who could be persuaded by reason, but not cowed by force. If Xuanningsiang wanted to be unreasonable with her, she definitely couldn't win. But once Xuanningsiang showed weakness, she couldn't be unreasonable. Gu Jiao felt that her heart wasn't that soft. It was mainly because Xuanningsiang helped her with a lot of needlework. She was a very useful neighbor. She also wanted to be a useful neighbor in exchange for Xuanningsiang, to help her with all the needlework in the house in the future. Gu Jiao took the letter and went to Xiao Liulang's room. Now she didn't need to knock to enter his room. Xiao Lulang had been recuperating in bed for the past few days. Knowing that he needed to study, Gu Jiao personally made a small table that could be placed on the bed. He was practicing calligraphy on the table. A 17-year-old young man with a thin figure, cold eyes, jade-like wrists, and an orchid temperament. How could there be such a good-looking person in the world? Gu Jiao rubbed her chin. What's the matter? Xiao Lulang noticed her and turned his head to look at her. Gu Jiao stared at him several times and was caught by him. But Gu Jiao didn't feel embarrassed even once. She walked over and sat on the other side of the table. She handed the letter to him and said, I want you to read it to me. As she spoke, Gu Jiao saw the red paper on the table and asked, What's this? Red paper. Feng Lin gave it to me. Xiao Lulang said, as if he was explaining that he didn't buy it. Gu Jiao didn't care about where it came from. She asked curiously, "What's it for?" Xiao Lulang thought for a while and said, "Cutting window flowers and writing spring festival couplets." Gu Jiao's eyes suddenly lit up. She hadn't cut window flowers or pasted couplets before. In her previous life, she always looked at other people's couplets and was envious of them. But in her mind, those were things that people did when they were reunited with their family. She didn't have a family to reunite with, so she didn't do such things. "Do you want to write it?" Xiao Lulang asked. "I don't know how to." Gu Jiao lowered her head and looked at her little index finger. Xiao Lulang remembered how she pointed at the words on the prescription and asked him how to read them. He also remembered how she grabbed the pen and wanted to sign it before the operation. So she wanted to learn how to write. "Gu Jiao, no. I don't want to." Xiao Lulang placed the book and the letter on the small table on the bed and spread out a piece of red paper. "I'll teach you." Gu Jiao. Digression. Xuaningxiang. Hey, did you guys forget something? The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964226/708435542. HTML Genius memorized the website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikaga mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.